Please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at their discretion. Roll call. Mr. Aliano is absent. Mr. Ellis.
Present.
Mr. Insua.
Here.
Mr. Simonian is absent. Mr. Yu.
Here.
Report regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on June 4th, 2009. Oral communications. I believe there is one card for oral communications.
We have one card. Mr. Bill Weisman. If you could state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Design Review Board members, city staff, and the public. My name is Bill Weisman. I'm a resident of Glendale, 5001 Carolyn Way, up in the Crescenta Valley. And I'd also like to say hello to my wife, Sharon, who hopefully is watching me at home now on GTV6. Hi, honey. I'm here tonight representing the Far North Glendale Homeowners Group. Our boundaries include the area that's north of Honolulu, between Lowell and Pennsylvania, and we're a member association of the Glendale Homeowners Coordinating Council. And the reason I wanted to come down to make a brief announcement tonight is because there are 3 cases on your agenda tonight that fall within our area. We thought this would be a good opportunity to let people know we exist in case they might be interested in joining us. If anyone is interested, I have some information with me here. Our primary function is really to keep our members informed regarding any design review or zoning cases that are happening in our area. Mr. Hagani is very good about sending us notices of anything that's going on, and we basically just send out email messages every so often to let people know. We generally do not take a position either pro or con any of the cases usually that are before you unless there is some kind of strong consensus or majority among our members. We primarily are in the business of disseminating information, keeping people informed. And thank you very much for your time. That's all I had.
Thank you for coming down.
Sure.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the review calendar. We do have one staff announcement.
Yes. Chair and members of the board, members of the public, wanted to make sure everyone knows that we'll have a study session for this board on July 9th. All 5 members have committed to that study session, so we look forward to that, to talking about how the DRB process has resolved and to get your input and feedback on that, and also from the public as well. Next week, DRB 2 will have their study session. All 5 members have confirmed they will be present. There will be, hopefully, if we can get it out quickly enough, a special notice going to all the homeowners association. We're hoping to get that postcard out in the beginning of the week. The study session agenda will be included in the packet, so it should be online as early as Friday. If not, it will be online on Monday for DRB2 study sessions, and the study session agenda is identical for both boards. So we look forward to July 9th for this board and June 18th for DRB2. Thank you.
What time?
Thank you.
It's our regular meeting time.
Okay. Guess that means they're not serving dinner.
You can always ask, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on to the consent calendar.
So there'll be no cases heard that day, it's just for the study session?
There may be one case.
There's one case, I think, on June 18th. Right now, we don't have anything scheduled for July 9th.
Now, I understand Board 1 has had a couple bye weeks, so if you can put anything for us onto their calendar that week, it'd be okay with me. You know, they've had at least 2.
I like that. That's pretty good.
Let them know we're thinking of them.
Okay, we have 2 items on the consent calendar.
Right. We have 2. We'll start with the first one. 1-PDR 2008-062B. If you had a chance to review it, is there anything that we wanted to comment on, or were we okay with keeping it in the consent calendar and approving it as is?
I'm fine with it on the consent calendar. I had no notes.
Okay. So you don't have any?
I thought it was a nice job.
Okay.
The other item, 4721 Boston Avenue, there is a card on that, so you need to take that off consent.
Right. So we'll take that one off.
So
All right.
you probably should take that one off consent first.
I move to take PDR 2009-017A 4721 Boston off the consent calendar.
We'll make it the first item then on the design review part of it.
Correct. And then you can move to,
Oh, and
Approve
in the
the
same
other
motion, I'll move to approve PDR 2008-062B 3507 Ferrista as presented.
okay, great.
And a second. Second? This will be roll call. Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
You're done.
Good night.
Who was the designer who did the Farista? Excellent work. I love old school drafting, by hand, good line weight. I was showing it to people in my office.
Thank you, sir.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being so patient and waiting. You guys are gone. The rest of you guys that have to stay here, thank you for being patient. So we'll move to the first item that we moved from the consent calendar over. 1 PDR 2009-017-A 4721 Boston Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The next case for you, once again, is 1-PDR 2009-017-A, which is located at 4721 Boston Avenue. It is zoned R1 low-density residential. The CEQA status that this project is exempt from CEQA. This is the first time submittal for the board's review. The project description is to construct a 225 square foot addition at the front of the house, a 46 square foot addition at the side yard, and a new 32 square foot front porch. As a result of the project, the fenestration pattern along the front facade will be reconfigured. The existing property is developed with an existing 1,363 square foot one-story single-family residence and an existing 484 square foot detached two-car garage. The property is irregular in shape. Is an interior lot that gently slopes downwards from the north to south portions of the property. Onto site planning of the project, the property is an interior lot that is irregular in shape once again. Although the portions of the home have a legally nonconforming setback of 23 square feet, the addition will conform to today's code with a 25-foot front setback. The floor area will slightly exceed the neighborhood average. However, the site planning will be consistent with the prevailing neighborhood pattern. At the mass and scale, the home will be slightly larger than the average of the median neighborhood. However, the building mass is adequately addressed, and the result is a building that does not appear to be overly massive. Onto our architectural style, the proposed minimal traditional addition appears to be in keeping with the existing style of the home. Overall, the materials appear to be of high quality, with the exception as staff has made a condition to, as an alternative to culture stone, brick, or an alternative to culture stone, brick or natural stone veneer should be used as a stone band material. Staff's recommendation is to approve the project with the following conditions. 1, propose the stone band should end at a logical location at the interior side yards or wrap entirely around the home. Once again, staff recommends the stone band to end at the eaves of one of the logical ends, on the interior facing gable shown on the south elevation, or the furthest edge of the shutter on the first window closest to Boston Avenue, as shown on the north elevation. Number 2, as an alternative to culture stone, brick and natural stone veneer material shall be used as for the proposed stone ban. Condition number 3, window materials of greater quality, such as wood, aluminum, or fiberglass, should be utilized. Number 4, wood sills and shutters shall return to all windows being modified. Number 5, the square column shall be utilized for the porch entry, which are shown as an arch. And last, number 6, the detached garage should be painted to match the new color palette of the main structure. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant and the homeowner are present, and I'll be available for further questions.
Any questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay. I just have one card for that project, so. Let's see, Dave DeAngelis. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, it's Dave DeAngelis. I'm the architect for the project. Address is 430 Suite H, Foothill Boulevard, La Cañada, California, 91011. Thank you, Commissioners. Due to our budget constraints on the project, we would like to request that the Planning Commission reconsider the conditions number 2, and number 3. That's regards to the window materials and the stone material on the house. What we'd like to propose is to remove the stone material around the house altogether and get rid of the brick cap. With the size of the house, I don't really think that it demands the stone, and we don't really need the stone to reduce the scale or the massing of the house. So rather than being forced to use real stone, which is very expensive, and wrap it even further, again, we'd rather just not use stone and continue with the wood siding. Once the planting has grown around the base of the house, it would probably hide more than 50% of the stone that we're going to put in anyway. So again, due to the budget constraints, we'd like to request to remove the stone off the project. And then that item number 3 was the vinyl windows. I intentionally used windows that are only single light so that we don't have the dividing bars and the grid in between the glass, which is what really kind of signifies that you have an inexpensive window. What I have found is with the vinyl windows, in a single light, once you're 10 feet away from the windows and from the curb, you can't tell what type of window that is, if it's wood or fiberglass or vinyl. Again, and we request that due to the financial constraints on the project. We all know about our financial times. We're having a tough time, my clients, to get the lending. The banks don't want to lend as much as they were thinking they're going to be getting. So to be forced into wood windows or a different material all the way around the house, then they're going to have to pay for the painting, and then they have to have maintenance on it. So we'd request to reconsider that, to leave the vinyl windows.
Do we have any questions?
What are the existing windows in the house?
The existing windows are wood, but they're old and they're
And you're replacing
literally
all the windows
falling
in the
out.
house?
Yeah. The windows right now are literally falling out of the sash.
Are they going to be, you show some of them as double hung, and then the one over to the right at the front as a...
Yeah, I think the condition on that was it was a recommendation to use double hungs on the front, and we have no problem with that. We can use the window to the north behind the fence there. We can make that one a window for egress. I originally had them as a horizontal slider to get the egress, but we can handle that around the side.
If I may just add this, and I mistakenly to add that as a condition. We did notice that the slider in the front was a slider, didn't match with the double hung or the single hungs in the front. I do believe we talked to Mr. DeAngelis. That is a bedroom on the corner, and there is a possible location of a slider on the side to make an emergency egress, but to make a fenestration pattern that matches the existing, I think staff was going to condition to have a double hungs place instead of having the slider as shown on the rendering.
But smaller in width, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Just have a couple questions. The roof is being changed out, right?
Yeah, we're going to put asphalt shingle on the roof.
And the siding is all being replaced out, or are you keeping the existing as much as you can? Or
I would say that on the north side and probably a portion of that back, we would retain the existing wood siding.
is it the same dimension all the way around as it is right now?
That I'm not sure of.
Because, I mean, they were pretty big siding pieces, like a foot or something.
Yeah, again, that's one of the issues of trying to match that. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Just a few pieces of the redwood is extremely expensive, so we just can't afford to redo the whole house in redwood.
Okay. Let's see.
I would say that the whole front portion, and anything to the fences that you would see from public view would be a new material.
Because a large portion of that facade is being changed, so. Okay. Do we have any other questions for?
No, I don't believe I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I don't have any more cards for that project. Is anyone else here to speak on that project? Okay, then we'll close it and we'll discuss. We'll start with you. Right?
Sure, I'm happy to start. You know what? I like the project. I would have agreed with staff on wrapping the stone. I don't have a problem with them not going for stone. I'm not sold on vinyl windows, and I would, I'm not an architect, but we've told everybody else, at least I have, vinyl windows are not a product that I like to see or want to see in Glendale. So I'm a stall on that one. There must be a choice other than vinyl that might work. But and then changing out that one window to match the other ones, and I could approve it with those, with that. And I think the staff had one other point. I think there's another other window. Yeah, and the other points I could go with too. I mean, matching the garage. I don't have a problem with the curved or the square column. And maybe for staff, is that you were talking about the archway over the? Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that either way. It'd probably be a little cheaper to make it straight.
I'm glad you're looking out for.
I would help save them, cut them a corner someplace, right?
Thanks.
Okay. The scope of the project is to replace all the windows as part of the thing. Yeah, it can be expensive when you're replacing them all. Well, I would think in such a nice neighborhood, you would want to have consistent, good quality windows. Budgets are sometimes something that are hard to want. I think that we as a board only have really authority to do them all, but we only have really the specific authority for those that you can see from the street. So I would agree that I would think that if you try to get them all the same, better quality windows would be a better thing to be doing to this home. It's a great neighborhood, but at least do the ones that you can see from the public right away, and those would be the front ones. Make those be of a better quality.
Should we want to consider any on the side, or should we just straight front?
I think the right-of-way ones, yeah.
Just because it would be.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah, I would say bedroom number 1, yeah, and then
Because the
all the way
corner
to-
path is here, I think.
Yeah,
the
I would say
garage.
I would just
This
say,
one.
I would say it's just
Okay.
these right there, both windows in bedroom number 1.
Because we want to be very specific about it, so we're saying, okay. Thank you. I agree with the comments that you guys made as well. I'm okay with the stone going away. I think that's going to be a good savings for them. Because I think I would have asked for it to wrap it to a place where it made sense. Windows, I agree. I'd like to see some kind of wood with a clad on it. And I think the things that we don't really necessarily object to sort of the profile of it, because they can make them bigger or smaller. It's more of the color, the glaring white that it has, and the idea that you can't color them or paint them or anything. It's it's either beige or white or that kind of thing. And so we'd like to go with some kind of cladding on the wood, and to sort of meet you halfway, I think, to do it in the areas where it's visible from the street, and then maybe you can go with some alternative on the back side of it. I guess the vinyl. So that's something that I would be willing to agree to. The other ones, I think it makes sense. I mean, the whole straightening out the little art. I I could go either way. I mean, they could do whatever they want with that. That's okay.
You know, one thing that did come out, in which I hadn't really recognized, but you pointed out, it's a redwood siding, that's why it's like a 12-inch batten.
Yeah, they're really big,
Yeah,
which is
right.
pretty nice.
Right.
I don't know if they make those anymore.
Well, years and years ago, I had a house very similar to architecture like this, and I had an addition, and to get those redwood sidings, I had to custom get the boards, and it was over at Terry
That's what I would think. It's almost like you want to put in new ones to make it cheaper.
Well, the funny thing is that, I go on, but I should have picked them up on Thursday, because on Thursday night, Terry Lumber burned down. So I had
With your custom cut wood, right?
with my custom, the whole thing
But
burned
you had
down.
nothing to do with it.
I had nothing to do with it, trying to get a better price. Anyway, you know what I was able to do, though? I was able to get the 1x12 redwood slats without the configuration, which was the expensive part, and I was able to get a table saw, put it on the angle, and rip it myself, and I got them matching, but that's me. But
Right.
I'm sure they're just as resourceful as we are. I'm sure they'll figure it out.
That's not, I mean, in a standard siding, they don't make them that big, is that what they're?
no, I think the big
Not that
issue
big,
was
yeah.
the profiles and the tongue and the lap is something
Right.
you don't see too much of it.
But, you know, so
Do we
I
have a
mean, I guess
motion?
whatever it is, the view from the street needs to be, consistent. And that would be my
Okay. Should we go over the
Look, the conditions?
conditions? Yes.
Conditions 1 and 2 regarding the stone ban, 1 and 2 to be removed. Does the board agree to remove condition number 5 in regards to square column above a porch entry to remain or to be removed?
I would just make it a consideration.
Consideration?
And actually, let me ask you, if you're removing the conditions, then the condition is that there is no stone. Is that really the condition?
Right, and that was their request, no
The request,
stone.
no stone.
Yes,
Okay.
they're requesting without stone.
Okay.
Yes.
So then the board is suggesting, because the presentation shows stone, there should be a condition that the stone shall be removed
Right. That was-
from the
right.
proposal.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
And a last added condition is it for the bedroom on the corner, bedroom number 1, to match the existing with double hung or single hung instead of utilizing a slider?
Right. On the, what face is that? On the east elevation?
It's
Yeah. I mean, the windows on the east elevation should all be double hung. I guess is that.
Well, I guess
that-
bedroom 2 is going to have to change out that window anyway.
okay. Do we have a motion?
I think the board mentioned that all of the windows on the front should be a different material, not vinyl. Is that correct? And do we want to specify fiberglass windows, or is there? Do you want to specify a number of options
I'll
for?
defer to you guys. I mean,
I think we've always
obviously,
said,
cost is an issue, but
right, we've always said it was a wood window with an aluminum clad or a fiberglass clad or pure wood. Or,
Okay,
I mean, the
so-
same ones that we've always.
Okay, so we'll provide the choices of wood, fiberglass, or aluminum clad. We think of aluminum and aluminum clad the same because they look on the exterior like aluminum. Just so that the board is clear, when staff is reviewing window changeouts at the counter, we always include the first corner window on either side because we assume that that can be seen from the street. Is that what we heard the board request?
The problem if we do the first window at the corner on the west side, we're in the great room. And that great room has 3 windows, looks like 2 windows actually. And if you do the first one as a clad type windows and not the next one, then that'll be inconsistent. So I think that it's far enough back from the front, we leave that one alone.
I
and-
agree, yeah.
this is that side you're talking about?
No, the other side.
The driveway side, right? The driveway
That's
side.
right. I'm sorry, I wasn't referring to the plan when I mentioned that. Typically, it's within the first 15 or so feet, and there seems not to be a window in that area because it's planned as the kitchen. So the only window on the side elevation will be, as you mentioned, in bedroom number 1.
That's correct. numbers.
So that's
the bedroom.
bedroom number 1 on the east elevation will also be
Yes, that is the one that is.
that material to match the front window.
Gotcha.
And regarding the configuration of the windows, as shown, with the exception of the large slider, the double hungs, the board is in agreement with the double hungs, and that large slider in bedroom number 1 should be reduced in size and also made a double hung. Is that what we heard?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be reduced. They can certainly do paired double hungs.
Okay.
To
Right.
give you the larger look, because it'll start getting too small.
Okay, so either paired double hungs or one smaller double hung. Would the board consider one fixed window of that same size as well, or no?
No, I think if we just say, and I see the applicant nodding, that on that window, we would recommend double hung, and to keep the size proportion paired of double hung, and leave it at that.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for those clarifications.
Do we have a motion?
I'm looking now that you
That's
pointed that
wrong.
out. Something's wrong here, right?
That actually is way down over here.
Yeah, right, okay. 'Cause I just, as you were doing that, I started looking at the windows.
Way down there.
I'll move to approve with conditions.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion by Board Member Ellis and a second by Board Member Insua to approve with conditions number 1, for the stone to be removed. 2, the window materials or grader materials such as wood, aluminum, fiberglass shall be utilized for the windows that are visible from the public. Also includes maybe wood with an aluminum clad or with a fiberglass clad. Also, another condition, the wood sills and shutters shall return to all windows be modified, and the detached garage shall be painted to match the new color palette on the main structure as the main structure, and add the new condition of a pair of double hungs should be utilized in place of the slider as shown to keep the proportion of it. Okay. And this will be roll call. Board Member Ellis?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Chairperson Yu?
Yes.
Okay, we have a 3-0 vote with 2 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to reorder the agenda a little bit, so Mr. Collin doesn't have to wait for us to be finished with the whole thing. Item E, which is the 1 PDR 2008-055A at 268 West Kenneth Road, we're going to move that up to the next project, and then all the other projects will just follow in line after that. So we'll go next to our Project 1 PDR 2008-055A, 268 West Kenneth Road. Mr. Collin, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
He's here.
Let's slide this back. Slide this in. I'll give you a quick tour of the different exhibits that we have up, and then I'll give my presentation. As mentioned, this is case 1-PDR 2008-055A, located at 268 West Kenneth Road. We have before you a site plan which shows the proposal as well as the existing structures on the property. I have colored elevations, the front, which is the north elevation, the west, the rear, which is the south, and then the east. Over here we have the proposed roof plan and ground floor and second floor plan. We also have the elevations of the proposed exercise room, elevations of the front from Kenneth that include the garage and without. And finally, we have a perspective drawing board to get a feel of what the proposal looks like from the street. I also have a material sample board. Chairman Yu has the photographs and a neighborhood survey. And we also have some photographs of what it looks like with the proposed second floor with the story poles that are up there now.
Any questions for?
I was going to give the rest of my presentation, but did you? That was just sort of a quick summary to it. Unless you're...
No, I saw you sit down, so I thought you were done. So.
No, I'll just run through it quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the first time submittal for final design review. It's been continued from the May 28th, 2009 meeting. The applicant is proposing to remodel and add 122 square feet to the existing first floor, add a new second floor of 936 square feet, and construct a new 342 square foot detached exercise room at the front. In addition, the applicant is proposing to convert an existing carport to a new two-car detached garage, which will be 440 square feet. And the total floor area, which does not include the garage, will be 2,375 square feet. Currently, there's a 975 square foot, single-story, single-family house and a detached carport located on the lot. Both buildings were constructed in 1950. The subject property is an irregularly shaped lot that's 8,060 square feet. The subject property is similar in shape to its adjacent lots, but there is some variation in size and orientation with the rest of the neighborhood. Per the architect, the existing house would be characterized as a mid-century modern post and beam style. The site slopes down 13 feet from the street toward the back of the lot. The existing carport is 4 feet below the street level, and the house is another 5 feet below that, for a total 9 feet below the street. Due to the topography of the lot and the location of the existing carport, only the roof of the existing one-story house is visible from the street. The neighborhood is zoned R1, low-density residential, contains single-family residences which are designed in various architectural styles. The property is located in the San Rafael neighborhood, which is a woodlands neighborhood. The neighborhood is characterized by building mass that is tiered back, uniform front setbacks, and very well-maintained front yards. Homes in this neighborhood tend to be large in size, 1 to 2 stories, and have a floor area that ranges from 1,400 square feet to 2,500 square feet. Most of the houses in this neighborhood were built between the 1920s and 1960s. Staff would like to key on the landscaping that's out there and what's proposed. Much of the existing landscaping throughout the property will remain. The majority, though, of the existing street setback area is occupied by what staff is calling a hammerhead hardscape area. It's like a backup for the garage. Per the zoning ordinance, the street setback shall be permanently landscaped, except for any walkway or required driveway. This paved area is not a required driveway, and therefore should be fully landscaped. As a condition of approval, staff is recommending that the paved area within the street setback be replaced with drought-tolerant landscaping. The proposed front yard planting should be shown in a landscape plan, which would be required prior to building permit issuance and will be reviewed by staff. With the new landscaping within the street front setback, the property should comply with the minimum landscaping requirement for this zone. The existing house is built with wood siding, asphalt shingle roof, and clear-story aluminum windows on the north and south elevations. The proposal maintains many of the features of the existing house, such as the overhanging eaves, clear-story windows, and low-pitched roofs. The proposal also includes updating the materials and look of the existing house and garage by replacing the vertical siding with new vertical wood siding. The trellis between the house and the garage will be removed. The entrance screen door will be replaced with a new wooden door with side lights, and the existing brick chimney will be covered with plaster. In addition, the proposal includes adding painted exposed wood beams below the eaves, and the changes in overall design with the proposed materials, such as the trowel finish plaster, aluminum sliding doors, and horizontal wood siding. In addition, the existing asphalt shingle roof on the house and rock cap over cap sheet on the garage will be replaced with pre-finished standing seam metal roofing. The exterior of the new garage will be covered by vertical siding to match the first story of the house. And the exercise room or guest house will be covered with a trowel finished plaster. The existing stone wall in the front yard is proposed to remain, and the alternating use of plaster and siding helps emphasize the different forms within the house and the structures on the property. The details and structures are appropriate for the style of the house and the neighborhood. The Planning Department believes that the proposed addition will be harmonious with the character of the neighborhood. Therefore, the Planning Department recommends that the project be approved with the following two conditions. And I can read through those quickly if you'd like, or...
Yes, please.
The first condition that staff is recommending is that a landscape plan be prepared by a licensed landscape architect, be submitted for planning staff's review and approval prior to the issuance of a building permit. The second condition is that the hammerhead hardscape area in the front yard setback shall be replaced with drought-tolerant landscaping, subject to the review of the planning staff and prior to the building permit issuance. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions, and the architect is in the audience.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I have a question. Environmental constraints, you talked about the historic. Do you know what is historic, or why is it considered historic? The assessment found the existing resident appears eligible. And I just was wondering, what is there? Is it because it's a mid-century modern? What do you have any idea on that?
It's a particularly nice example of mid-century
Of
modern.
mid-century, right? So it's not like it has a history of Glendale or anything.
We don't know of any association with historic personages in Glendale.
Basically, just because it's that nice mid-century modern. Okay. Okay. Actually, I have one other question, too.
Go ahead.
On, you mentioned that the landscaping would be acceptable. I'm looking on the plans, and unless I'm reading it wrong, on sheet A2, it said the required landscape open area of 40%, but its total landscaped area is only 28%.
Right. What happened is the applicant did not include the pool area and the decking around the pool, which is typically included as part of the landscaping requirement.
Okay.
And with that added area, in addition to the added landscaping at the front,
When you take out the hammerhead,
when you take out the hammerhead,
that gets them just up to the...
exactly, it
Okay.
should meet code at that point.
Okay. Because it seems from looking at the plan that it's not much green on the lot, even though you see it, that there are trees and things, but...
Right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So, the hammerhead thing, you're proposing to do what on the hammerhead?
We're proposing that it be a drought-tolerant type of landscaping placed in there
Is that in this area here or in the planters?
in the area that is currently cement.
So, make that drought tolerant?
Correct.
So how's a car going to get out? Back up into the street?
Which is allowed in a single-family zone.
But that's Kenneth Road. You don't want to be backing up on Kenneth Road.
Yeah.
That's just silly. Okay.
I mean, is there a way to do it with grasscrete or something?
Yeah, we can do
green?
that, but you don't want to back up on Kenneth Road.
I was scared getting in my car door when I stopped to look at the project.
Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. All right, that's not a good idea. Okay.
We have one card. Hamlets or Evans, if you could. And you know the drill, so state your name.
Okay.
Thank you.
Zorabians.
Yes, my name is Hamlet Zorabians. I'm the project architect. My address is 3467 Ocean View Boulevard, Suite B, Glendale. And good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board and the staff. To just present this project to you, mainly everything was said already and was presented very nicely. The only thing is that truly when, for the first time, we went to visit the existing building and to begin our construction, my associate and I, we basically went inside and we looked at each other. The first thing that we did was smile to each other, because we kind of recognized the existing house to be a very cute, very nice house there. And we, based on that, based on the value that we saw in the house, we've tried to design and make our addition around the existing building itself. At that time, the historical resource or historical viability or registry was not determined yet, so we had done a full extensive historical report that was required by the planning department. So we did that. We went back and forth on that, and overall, it was found out that I believe that our approach to the problem, to the project itself from the beginning, to preserve the existing house as much as we can, was correct. So what our project is proposing is to add essentially a second story above the existing house. Structurally, the existing house will be kept and retained. What we are doing, we are actually bypassing by columns, if you will, on both sides, and we have created a overhang in the rear of the property where it was actually much needed for the family, and they were asking if we can have some sort of a canopy there as well. So that actually served both purposes, and therefore we don't even have to go inside the house and do any foundations or any redesign as far as the structure is concerned. And what we did, because the existing garage was not in existence, there's a carport, two-car carport, which you see the cars from outside. I trust that you've already driven through that area there. So what we're going to do, we're essentially facing it, and we're putting a nice door there to complement it. It will be an enclosed garage, two-car garage, which is required by planning. And the entry, which was through that carport, now is shifting to the right-hand side. That's where, therefore, we designed and retrofitted it sort of an entry feature there that will be readily visible as someone comes in. And as far as the materials are concerned, we're trying to stay consistent with all the existing overhangs, certain details that the roof had, the roof slope itself, and did not want to really change the style of the house, except that we are going more of a modernized version of it. So we are keeping the certain features. That's what we've tried to do. And actually, the existing topography is very nice and helps us, as far as that is concerned, to undulate the building and kind of more articulate. As it comes down, it kind of cascades down. What is unique about the site is that if you drive on Kennett, you don't get to see much of the house itself. Almost about 8 or 9 feet of it is below the surface, and further out is the house, which is even sunken there. So what you see is virtually the carport, where we are actually redesigning it. And that's why we were asked to do some additional drawings showing what will be the effect of it. So we will see that only the garage and the entry will be readily visible. The house beyond it is about, I would say, about 40 feet beyond even the frontage of the house itself. So it presents itself as a good opportunity for us to undulate the building even more. And materials are going to be very high quality. What we are doing, we're using aluminum windows. The existing building has aluminum doors, sliding doors on both sides, and the clear story windows, the existing ones, are wood framed, which we're going to keep them. We didn't want to change those. But what we're going to do, the wood siding that there is there, it is not in a very good condition. There are a lot of after work on it, and you can see that there's so many pipes that are exposed and run through it and so on and so forth. So we plan to take those and replace them by a more appropriate, however vertical, the same direction wood siding. And plaster will be a smooth plaster. We didn't want to have everything off wood siding. We tried to introduce a couple of different materials there. As far as the chimney is concerned, I just want to make sure that we understand why we are covering the chimney with plaster. And there might be a question for you. It's because in the construction of the chimney, we have actually 2 different types of bricks that are used, and besides that, there is another brick which is on the pavement of the paved areas. So we didn't want to have too many materials there introduced there. So what we're doing, we rather cover it with plaster and make it integrated into the design of the house itself. Most of the trees that you see there, they're all remaining. They're all depicted very correctly. We have all palm trees, and I think there are close to maybe 100 palm trees there, which we're going to be actually keeping those. During construction, you have an existing swimming pool and the landscaping, which is going to remain. So that's basically our presentation. If there is any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And as far as Hammerhead, let me just make sure. That was our assessment as well, because this particular location is fronting Kennett, we did not see it appropriate for the car actually to come out, and that's existing garage the way we have it. So what we thought to do is to possibly either cut portions of the cement and create some sort of grass inserts there with a certain pattern. There you go.
Yeah, it's gonna be perfect.
It's that, which will gonna help, and you will have a porous material there. You're gonna have your landscaping there, and it will be a grass area, which much of the houses they can have a drought tolerant grass area there, Marathon 2 or whatever. So that would be my suggestion to do, to keep that, in order for us to keep that, as far as safety is concerned.
That makes sense.
So that's it. I mean,
Do we have any questions for the architect?
I got a question for you, Hamlet. The exercise room or guest room, what's in that space now? Is that open?
No, well, it's open, but it's paved area.
It's a paved area.
Yeah.
Right.
What used to be is that my client's granddaughter, which they're moving from East Coast over to take over the house, she used to use that area for exercise. So we said, why do we have to have it outdoors? And they wanted to have some sort of protection there, so we proposed to have a room there. As you can see, we could not move that room in the backyard. It was occupied by the swimming pool and everything. It's not practical. And also, we didn't want to make that into a kind of an integral part of the house itself. I didn't want to touch the existing house that much as far as the structure is concerned. So it's in the interest of preserving the existing house quality that I kept it there. And again, that is in a sunken area. If you go there, you drive there, you can see that's clearly sunken there.
Anything else?
Are the homeowners here?
Yes.
They're over there?
No one is there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other cards for that project. Is there anyone else here for that project? No? Okay, then we'll close it and we'll start with you.
All right, I'll be quick. How refreshing. Hamlet, you're very talented. You've been doing this for a long time. But to see a house and see what it has to offer and think we can improve upon it, not demolish it. And I have no problem with demolishing homes. Believe me, that's business. But to see what you've got there and then see, boy, we can really enhance this. We can improve it. We can make it better. We can take it, the language that it's telling us and put a new contemporary spin on it and come out really better than what you've got here. You, Hamlet, and your company and the homeowner should be commended. What a nice job. The only way I'll approve this is if we ensure that we put it into that binder that we've been building that says when people have a thought as to what is good design and respecting what we currently have, we build that binder. Go see the binder. People out in the audience, great job, Hamlet. New materials, new interpretation, new site planning within what you've got, and you've made it a winner. And again, that porous material that you talked about at the front, keeping the hammerhead functional, but bringing in more percolating material and so it's pervious down to the ground is the way to go. What a nice job.
That's tough to follow.
Just give a big thumbs up.
It's a great job.
It is amazing design. My only concern kind of was, and I appreciate, like you said, taking what was there and improving on it. It's a lot in a pretty small area, and that's the problem that I kind of was having with it. Just adding the exercise room, the floor area, the space. I mean, the lot was a little bigger, but
the thing that helps me, and I know the property well, I used to walk a lot, the slope is quite descending, so that what you see from the front and from the sides, and even from the neighbors, it's not imposing.
Right.
It's going down the hill.
right. And I noticed that when I went to look at it, that you're not going to see it from the street. Anyway, okay, it is a very nice design. You can't fault the design.
I too think it's a great project. The use of materials and the colors, I think it's a good way of utilizing them. The roof lines are clean and well done. I was actually going to say, wow, that's a lot of palm trees. What's the landscape architect thinking? But when I went out there, I was like, oh, they're already there. So I'll just leave that alone.
If you lose
a lot of palm trees.
construction, yank them, I'll take them. My house. You got some great king palms there and a lot of those other ones.
I really like the site planning of it. I mean, there's sort of, there's these little buildings that are kind of on there and it kind of going back. And I think the most interesting spaces are going to be sort of in between them and how you plant those areas and use them. I think it's going to be wonderful there. The sectional elevations really helped because of the sloping as you go down. I think It's a job well done, and I think I'm ready to approve it as we discussed it, so.
I think the only thing we should do is, I agree with what the staff is saying, but the hammerhead, instead of putting it into drought tolerant, I think that we should do is have a large pavers with the intermediate grout space, which would normally be grout, either sand or land with grass, so that the water allows to percolate and you can still drive upon it, so you don't risk hitting me when I drive by in the morning with
But
my
hopefully
kids.
that'll be enough for their landscaping, though, because they do need some of it, so.
Yeah, it is pretty tight. Are you going to move it?
I move to approve vigorously, and well done.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are we clear with the revised?
Yeah, are you clear with that one, that
What
rigorous part?
I put down,
And as a condition...
If Mr. Collin can reiterate the conditions, that would be useful.
what I put down is that the hammerhead at the front will be replaced with large pavers with a big separation between
Here's what I
them
would-
to allow.
Maybe what we should say, since the architect is very skillful, create the hammerhead with a ability to drive upon it, but that water can percolate through.
There you go.
We suggest pavers, large, not small pavers, not those diamond things, yuck, not on this house. The larger pavers, maybe 2x2, saw cut it, where the water can percolate, that's the way to go.
And the recommendation for a landscape plan to be provided, is that not a condition you're interested in maintaining?
It's tricky, because a lot of it is existing, and so.
And normally, single-family homes, we don't require or license.
It's not required.
We just say
That's right.
professionally done. And I think that this applicant continues to prove that he can achieve, and they can achieve, professionally done landscape planning.
Okay, and before we conclude this hearing item, I just want to address Mr. Collin. Will we have any challenge to meet the required landscaping with the condition as stated?
Yeah,
I'll have to see the updated numbers for the square footage of the pool, but I think we can make it work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
if that doesn't work, you might want to consider like a grass cleat or something but that's a secondary thing.
But don't make it those little pavers, yucky, big things, and then pattern.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Mr. Insua, second by Mr. Ellis. This will be roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Chairman Yu?
Yes.
Motion carries on a 3-0 vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next project will go to 1-PDR 2008-052-A3544 Roselawn Avenue. And Roger,
Yes.
that's going to be you, right?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The next item before you is Design Review 2008-052A. It's a review of a proposal to remodel the exterior facade and add approximately 700 square feet to the existing 1,047 square foot single-family residence. The existing unpermitted recreation room attached to the garage will be demolished as a result of the project, and the project is located at 3544 Roselawn Avenue in the R1 zone. Let me quickly go over with you what's on the board. Roselawn is right here. The site plan is here. Roselawn Avenue is here. The existing house is right here. The proposed addition is here and here. The elevations, this is the front elevation along Roselawn, and the floor plan. The garage here, this area will be removed. Perspective rendering, some materials and photos. Sure. Okay, the addition to the single-family residence is located in both the front and rear of the residence. As a result of the front addition, the existing 38-foot front setback will be reduced to 25 feet. This setback is in keeping with the abutting homes and consistent with the neighborhood average. Uniform front setbacks are a distinctive characteristic in this neighborhood. An existing oak tree is located within 20 feet of the subject property, and the canopy extends into the property. The applicant will be required to obtain indigenous tree mitigation measures from the city's urban forester, which should be added as a condition of approval for the project. Additionally, trash, mechanical equipment, and utilities are not identified on the plans, and a condition has been included in the staff report to include requiring information regarding these items to be shown on the plans prior to the issuance of a building permit. The proposed addition is modest as it relates to the overall footprint of the residence and in keeping with the general neighborhood context. The proposed FAR is .28, is not significantly higher than the .20 that is the neighborhood average. No changes to the height of the house are proposed. Design and detailing of the project is of high quality, will enhance the overall design of the residence and is compatible with the neighborhood. The facade changes to the residence resemble a contemporary version of a minimal traditional with craftsman influences. Materials include cement board siding to replace existing stucco, stone veneer, and fiberglass windows. Staff is recommending approval of the project with the condition listed in the staff report, as well as one regarding the mitigation measures for the oak tree located on the adjacent property. And this condition should read as follows. The applicant shall obtain indigenous tree mitigation measures from the city's urban forester and include them on the check plans for the project. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for staff?
I don't.
Thank you. Let's see. I have one card for the project. Mr. Franco Arabian. Name and address, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. Franco Noravian, 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I'm the architect for the project. As Roger said, it's a modest addition. We're just trying to dress up the front of the house a little bit. So that's why the front two gables, a little bit higher roof pitch. The reason for the big front porch is that my clients use the front yard all the time. And so they like having a porch that kind of leads into the front yard. The reason this house was originally built so far back is there was a huge oak tree, and my clients loved the oak tree and used it all the time, but unfortunately it was diseased. The inside of it was hollow. And actually, back in, Roger mentioned mitigation measures, back in June of 2007, I got mitigation measures from back then, Mr. Bill McKinley, and they found out that the tree was diseased and it was cut down with a permit, the front oak tree. But the idea that what my client's envisioning, we've got a couple of trees, but eventually those trees will get bigger, and they're hoping that they'll have a little bit of shade in the front and they'll be able to use the front of the house. Again.
You didn't go for an oak.
Well, we could. I mean, I'm totally open with that. If you want to suggest that, that's okay too.
No, I'm sorry.
Colors, that's the color that my client wanted. But we're doing the whole thing in wood siding. Let's see, what else? Windows are going to be integrity, so it's a wood window with fiberglass. And back door, French door will be Pella. Wood door again.
I have a question for you. Do you consider it more of a native stone?
Well, like the previous applicant said, everybody would like to do like real stone. But
I know just in the style, as opposed to it's that La Crescenta Valley. There's a lot of round stone.
I suggested it to my clients, but they don't like the round.
Okay.
Originally, that was my suggestion, but they prefer, so I said, okay, we can't go completely square, so what I'm suggesting at least has some, it's in between.
One project that we approved as a board, that they're mining the rock right off of their lot.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how far down that goes. That was above foot, but just a, all right.
You have to start your own quarry.
Yeah, right, in your backyard. Yeah, okay. Thank you. That was my only question.
Do we have any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I see the stone thing?
Oh, sorry.
This one, which one?
Anyone else here for that project would like to speak? Okay, then we'll close the session and we'll discuss. Who do we start with last time?
It's my turn.
It's your turn? All right, Brian.
Yeah, I think it's a very nicely done, a modest addition. As you can tell from my questions, I'm not real crazy about the stone. But I mean, other than that, I think, Franco and the applicant have done a nice job. I could support it unless you guys have a suggestion on, and it could be just from the rendering. I just, maybe with the green and that one doesn't really work well for me, but.
I, too, think it's done well. I would only have one suggestion. If you notice, you can see it especially here, that you got the porch, but you got a whole bunch of stairs in front, so there's a lot of hardscape there. If you consider extending your porch a little bit more, only have the stairs come here, and then put landscaping across the front, you'll get big, because the steps are really not going to be ever utilized here. They get utilized here. Other than that, but that's your discretion. Other than that, I think it's done well.
You guys are okay with the color? It's a little bright, but I guess they.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look. It looks better on the chip than it does on the house, or on the drawings.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's well done. The only thing would be, I guess, if these two trees in the front are going to be new, right?
Yeah.
The crepe myrtle is really close to the driveway. I don't know, just move it over a little bit. Everything else looks okay. I mean, I think it's well done. I think it's going to improve the look of the house. Any motions? Consider.
My turn. I'll move to accept with conditions as there was the recommendation near the trash mechanical area. And again, I guess as I always say on that one, to be please considerate of the neighbors or wherever the air conditioning unit ends up.
That's why we have the location for the trash and mechanical equipment noted. Would we like to include this consideration for reducing the stair at the front?
Yes.
Yeah. And increasing the
Consider reducing the size of the steps to the front porch and extend the patio.
and then you can have and then it'll give you an opportunity to landscape in front of it, where you now just have hardscape.
And
Good.
landscape in the front of this. And there was also a consideration or a condition on moving the crepe myrtle further from the driveway.
Just a consideration.
Okay, consideration. And then staff is, this wasn't in the staff report, but staff is recommending that you make as a condition the mitigation measures from the urban forester be included in the plans.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that your mic?
Sure.
Oh.
Okay, a motion was made to approve the project with those conditions or considerations. Was there a second?
We were just fighting over who should do that. I'll motion, he'll second.
Okay. Roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Great. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the
Or
next
is it
project.
just?
1 PDR-2009-016A, 1510 Majestic Way.
Okay, good evening again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The next item before you is design review 2009-016A. It's a review of a proposal to construct a new 4,772 square foot, two-story, single-family residence with an attached three-car garage. The existing single-family residence will be demolished as a result of the project. The subject site is 18,000 square feet and located in the R1R zone. Let me go over with you what is on the board.
that on the small print.
Actually, this is it. Okay. The plans are from here over. This is the site plan. Verde is right here, Majestic Way is here, and the house is here. This is the garage. The entry is right here. The first floor plan, and the second floor plan, again, the garage is here and the house is here. Order ends the same. And the second floor plan, second floor plan. The landscape plans are here, elevations. This is the elevation along Majestic. This is the elevation along Verde. I passed out the material board and some photos of the neighborhood.
Pause it.
Okay. The project site is located on the corner of Majestic Way and Verde Drive. The proposed house is located basically in the center of the site. The attached garage will be accessed from Verde Drive. A landscape plan has been submitted for the site, which denotes a new planting pellet and incorporates a swimming pool, a pool deck, and hardscape areas. And that's located sort of in the far corner of the site. Staff recommends using drought-tolerant plants, I should say, in lieu of lawn in the landscape area fronting Verde Drive, and a condition has been added to ensure compliance with this recommendation. Staff also recommends using a railing design that is lighter in appearance, like horizontal pickets, around the proposed pool. Also, a condition has been added to require location of trash area and mechanical equipment on the site plan prior to approval of the building permits for the house. Overall, however, the site plan of the project is consistent with the homes on the adjoining properties and the surrounding neighborhood. Mass and scale are important considerations in the Woodlands neighborhood, and particularly in this case because the property is surrounded by small streets and relatively modest-sized houses. While there are different forms being introduced to break up the mass of this house, particularly the three distinct forms at the front, the roof design appears homogeneous. Staff recommends introducing additional roof line variations in order to break up and minimize the roof mass. The L-shaped house proposes the second floor near the northeast corner of the site, and as a result, the overall design and placement of the massing appears inappropriate for the setting. The applicant needs to explore additional means to reduce massing, including introducing breaks in the building plane, using different building forms and fenestration, and utilizing variations in building material. While the applicant has made some effort to incorporate these recommendations, massing continues to be a concern for staff, and at a minimum, further stepping back of the second floor is recommended. The proposed residence is located in an established neighborhood containing residences designed in Spanish Revival, ranch, minimal traditional, and contemporary and mid-century modern styles. The design of the proposed residence is a modern interpretation of a Mediterranean revival. While this style is not necessarily inappropriate for the neighborhood, the design and quality of the details appears incongruous and inconsistent. In order to ensure the use of high-caliber materials and enhance the overall design of the house, staff recommends using two-piece barrel tile, omitting the score lines on the front entry, using smooth troweled stucco finish, using more traditional shaped wood corbels or wood rafter tails, simplifying and recessing the windows and eliminating the precast surround and introducing wood sills, and then reconsider the street-facing windows related to configuration and pattern. Staff recommends returning the project for redesign with the conditions contained in the staff report, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
Yeah, staff, have you been working with the applicant on this project? Because whenever I hear your very poignant, specific, well-founded, in my opinion, points concerning the design, my first thought is, have you been working with the applicant well before this, before you made your report, and was these surprises to the applicant, if
Yeah.
you will?
Yeah, actually, thank you for asking that question. We have done some work with the applicant. We do believe that some of the details of the project have been improved. From the beginning of the process, we expressed concern about the massing of the project. And so when the project finally came in for submission and we reviewed the project in total, we believed that that concern was an overriding concern. Even though some of the details had improved, we felt that in total, because not all of the details had improved, and primarily because we know the board's concern is with massing that's appropriate for the neighborhood, we felt strongly that we needed to recommend a return for redesign.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, we'll go to the speaker cards. Larry Lachner, is that right? You can state your name and address, please.
Pretty darn close. Larry Lashner, 168.
Lashner, oh,
Yes. Nobody gets it right the first time. That's pretty good, though. 168 West Camino Real, Arcata, California. I'm the architect for the project. And, you know, we have gone through design review before just recently, and so I've got a pretty good feel for what you guys are looking for here. And we have spent a lot of time with urban planning to work on this house. We've taken a sort of a three-phase approach here. We met with the neighbors originally because we found that was very important. And we got the comments from the neighbors and introduced those comments into our design. So, you know, for example, we put the garage all the way in the back so it wasn't, you know, visible from the street. And we told them we would address the drainage issues because, you know, it's a downsloping street, and we will have a nice grading and drainage plan that will address those issues in significant detail. We addressed the privacy of the neighbor at the rear because they didn't want the home to be looking into their home, so we've come up with landscaping that screens their house from this house. And we've also done several things to minimize the impact on the view of the neighbors across the street. The reason for this sort of L-shaped design is because we wanted to make the front of the house narrow as we could make it. It's actually significantly narrower than the existing home. We also took the house and sort of stepped it down the side, so we tried to make the house conform to the side also. In fact, at one time we actually had a garage that was semi-subterranean. In the back, you couldn't see it at all. Unfortunately, the planners told us you can't do that because that's considered a three-story. So we unfortunately had to change the design. But anyway, and the second thing, of course, we do is we work with the city to address their concerns and the design review board's potential concerns. We have already lowered the height of the roof, the pitch of the roof, significantly. We have already set back the second story significantly. We have reduced the sizes of the windows. We have eliminated many windows. We have changed from arches in our patio areas to no arches. We have changed from the type of windows to be more consistent with the Mediterranean Revival or Spanish Revival. We have also changed the columns from round to square, and probably another 25 recommendations we have incorporated in this design. So that gets us to the nitty-gritty here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right to the conditions that have been presented here, because I think it's a good starting point and a good finishing point for that matter. The first item is to reconsider the building design to focus the massing away from the northeast corner of the site. Redesign so the building bulk appears reduced. Okay. What I did, because I thought it would be interesting for you, is I don't have them all. I do have them all, sorry. I drove down the street, and I took pictures of, classic Spanish Revival homes. Because, if we're going to do that type of home, we're going to try to be as consistent with that type of architectural design as we possibly can. And as you will notice, the typical design for this type of home is a pretty much two-story face. I mean, it's pretty sheer, Very, very little setback on the second story. And I literally just went, down the street, house to house. I didn't pick any houses in particular. I just, the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. I just, took several and and I presented them for you. So I believe very strongly that our house is set back significantly more than any of those homes and any of that typical type of architecture. And were we to set this house back farther, the second story, I very strongly feel that it's not going to look like this type of home anymore. It just isn't. So we sort of have a difference of opinion here, and we appreciate the input, but the reason we're here is to present our point of view and our position tonight. Okay, now, one thing I noticed you don't have is you don't have the perspectives up there. Roger, do you know, are they behind there or something, or?
If they're not,
Well, it's okay.
Yeah.
I kind of like you to see the perspectives, because what it shows is that the roof planes and heights are significantly stepped and altered, and they vary very significantly. And in fact, specifically, as you drive up to this project, that's what you see when you drive up. And that house, basically, like I say, it conforms to the site itself, and there's significant setback on that side. In fact, the setback to the second story is 25 feet. So it's significantly set back. The only way we could set it back farther, quite frankly, is to put it behind the ridge line. And we would end up with the second story in the back patio. Now, another point here, too, is that one of the client's requirements was to maximize the size of the yard. So in order to do that, of course, we created that L shape, and now we have a very, very nice large yard in the back, a very nice pool. This is actually a very large site, but in the back of the property, the lot slopes fairly significantly, about a 2-to-1 slope and towards the back.
I'm sorry, I think the time...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll finish quickly.
Just wrap up, please.
I'll finish quickly.
Okay, thanks.
Anyway, the perspective should hopefully demonstrate what I just stated. Same thing. Second condition, again, introduce more variation in roof height. I think we've done that. Third one is that the front entry door shown on the material board shall be installed prior to DRB final field inspection. That's fine. We agree. We'd be happy to do that. It says use 2-piece barrel clay tile roof. Actually, the client likes the one-piece better, but if that's a very overriding concern, we would be happy to consider that. Omit the scored lines at the front entry. Again, this is a client request, and in order to come up with something that would satisfy the client as well as potentially DRB, we would propose doing a stone facade on the entry that kind of gives us this look with different pieces of stone instead of putting this in the stucco. I think it would be much more traditional anyway. So, actually, we would like to propose that type of approach. 6 is the use of smooth steel troweled stucco. It is already smooth steel troweled stucco, so we completely agree with that. 7 is to use traditional shaped wood corbels or wood rafter tails. We would prefer to use stuccoed rafter tails that look exactly like the wood rafter tails, because it's a much safer installation. I mean, from a fire standpoint, the eave overhangs today, the fire department likes to see a fireproof type of situation. So we would prefer to, for that reason and for maintenance reasons also, to use a corbel that looks exactly like a very, very standard wood corbel, and in any darker color. But, it's going to be, I think, a safer installation. Use a railing designed light in appearance, horizontal picket. I'm also a general contractor, and I normally don't put horizontal rails around pools because kids can climb on those. I don't think they're allowed, quite frankly. So I really strongly recommend not doing that. Consider using a drought-tolerant landscaping along Verde Drive. Absolutely. That'd be no problem at all. We'd be happy to do that. Simplify the windows by eliminating the precast surround. Provide a recessed installation for the windows with bullnose detail. Add a wood sill and jamb. Same thing. The client would prefer a maintenance-free and a fireproof installation as opposed to wood. We would propose, however, to use a precast type of installation that looks very traditional, very similar to that wood type approach with a sill, for example. And if push comes to shove, we'll put the wood in there, but they would prefer to not do that. And lastly, working with staff to identify trash area. Yeah, we've got lots of places for the trash areas and the air conditioning equipment, so that shouldn't be an issue. Thank you. Any questions, please?
Thank you. Any questions for?
On your surrounds, you're looking to use precast
Yes.
concrete, not a styrofoam type?
Oh, no. Yeah, we precast. Yes. And by the way, just as a general comment, the materials are. We don't use cheap materials in any homes that we build. This is going to be very high quality, high standard material. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Okay. Any other questions for him?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
The next card, we have Marianne Prelock. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members and staff. I'm Marianne Prelock. I've lived at 1550 Royal Boulevard for 38 years. I'm a half a block and around the corner from the subject project. My house is just outside the boundaries of Glendale's first historic district, and our entire neighborhood is enjoying the benefits of the designation that protects and preserves Glendale's unique neighborhoods. I'm also a longtime member of the Board of Directors of Royal Canyon Property Owners, although I'm appearing and speaking as an individual, not for the Homeowners Association tonight. I appreciate staff's strict observance of the guidelines regarding mass and scale and the effect on the neighboring properties. My next-door neighbor is completely rebuilding his house, and it's totally compatible and enhances the adjoining properties, especially mine. I'm grateful he loves the neighborhood and he wants to be a very good neighbor. As stated in the staff report, this project is to be built on a relatively flat pad, which, due to its mass, will make it incompatible with the adjoining properties. There are 3 large homes to the rear of this property, but they follow the topography and they're built on the downslope. The other homes are consistent in size and are appropriate for the small, narrow streets in this area. I believe everyone values outstanding, compatible, conforming designs for new homes, and I urge you to send this project back for redesign to make it more compatible for our long-established premier neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any questions for her? Thank you.
While I'm remembering, I forgot to mention, you have, I think, 4 or 5 letters with regard to this project.
I'll make mention of that. Thank you. Almost forgot. Next card is Ted Levine. You could state your name and address, please.
Sure. Well, I'm Ted Levine. I'm at 1555 Royal Boulevard. I did submit in writing to you guys. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to read that. But quickly, I will just express that the architect and the property owner have been very gracious in accommodating the neighbors. As a neighbor, we are not objectionable to the property. I think it's going to be quite a nice enhancement. I think our primary concern that I want to raise to you guys is the impact that's going to be happening with the soil and this property being upslope from my property. Verity Drive is the entry and exit for 1539 Princess, as well as our property at 1555 Royal. This street currently has no mitigation for rainwater runoff. And when this property is built, there is a significant amount of concrete, surface material, roof line, and all that. So it's going to be very changing to the property. I'm not quite sure what the property owner can do, other than the architect has mentioned just now that they're going to be addressing drainage. But the impact to our property, we are the recipient of every bit of rainwater that comes down that Verity Street. The property owner, when they purchased the property, did remove a significant, just pretty much all of the landscaping that was there that was mature. That did absorb a lot of that rainwater from that particular property site. That's all gone now, and we're going to be introducing more concrete surfaces, so our biggest concern is this runoff. So,
Any questions?
you guys can include some mitigation for us, that would be great.
Just so you know, as projects like this go through, as they have to go through engineering, those are things that they do have to explain, and how when they get the grading permit, they have mitigation and, requirements that they have, that they specifically put on projects as they go along. So
Okay.
there is somebody looking out for that.
There's a plan
So,
for that?
Yeah. So, well, they're going to be as they go through building and safety and through engineering, those kinds of things. So they do have to satisfy those requirements. So it's not
Okay.
like they just go from here and then they go out and build it. So there are other.
How do we learn of these
Well,
results?
you can stay in touch with the architect, and they could probably let you know how far they are along the way, and they
Okay.
can inform you of that. So.
Because it's pretty significant to,
I'm sure it is, especially if you're the one that's
yeah,
the
the
recipient
city
of all
built
that.
that street with no drainage, no gutters, nothing. So,
So
that's
one side at a
not-
time.
Yeah, it's not good planning.
I got you.
Something tells me that the developer of the neighborhood built the street as opposed to the city. Just,
Well,
it is a dedicated, but usually the developers build the streets and then dedicate them to the city. But nevertheless, you have a problem, it sounds like.
You can ask the engineering division
Yeah,
of the city.
that would be the
They
guy.
would-
engineer?
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Okay, right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next card, I have Todd Ivega. Okay, thank you. Next one is Nancy Brazy. Okay. Just wanted your name heard on over the. I don't have any other cards. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on the project? No? Okay. Then let's close the session, and I believe it's Ivan.
Okey doke.
Oh, wait, before you go.
Oh.
Just to mention that we did get several letters, one from Joel Arroyo, Doris Boyer, actually two from her, and
Yeah, actually, maybe I'll clarify that one. I think initially there were some concerns, and then the second letter that we just received today didn't have any concerns. So
actually I think it's the other way around. The date of it is, the written one is before, which came in later,
Oh,
but
okay.
chronologically it's backwards. So.
sorry.
And one from Robert Pierre. So thank you for sending it, and one from Ted Devine, who came and spoke. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You look at a project, whether you be designing it from the initial start or whether we're critiquing something that someone else has done, and often my first reaction is the most accurate. Once I establish that reaction, I then start trying to figure out why I feel that way, and then utilize, hopefully, my skill, my experience, mathematics, neighborhoods, visual elements, photographs, and see if my initial reaction is accurate, because often it's right. This house, for me, is exactly what the city is saying. It's inappropriate, too big for its site. Its mass and scale is too big, and sometimes big homes work, but this one doesn't for me. Its size and its mass in how it presents itself doesn't fit, and I tried to figure out why. I think I can. You showed these pictures from neighborhoods. If you notice, all these homes don't have backyards, don't have neighbors. They're up against a mountain. So there is something that it's telling you. It's breathing. The house, the bigness of this house is set aside from against the hillside. Every one of them against the hillside. in which the adjacent neighbors, you can't see it. You get the house, the backyard, the hills, the landscaping. And so I figure, that's what I'm sensing. That's one of the things I'm sensing about this house, that these exhibits, although I think done very well, and you can certainly see that they were done in a certain period, have something about them that help me appreciate why I think they're successful, and they don't have that impact of mass and scale. Site location, site-specific location, I think cannot compare these homes with this one. This home, situated on these sites, would not have, I think, the mass and scale adjacencies and visual bigness that this one has. So I think this house that you're proposing, placed on sites which are like this, I don't think I would have that initial reaction. I wouldn't have that. But because this one is on a corner and you can see it, I see exactly what I think is telling me. You're going to start seeing this house as you turn the corner and look at it. Look at it. You see it. And there's nothing wrong by seeing all the aspects of a house. But for me, what I see is something disproportionate to where it sits, its visual perspective. I just see a big house all the way around and not done well. And I'll get to those in a second. When you look at the existing house that we've got now from a person who submitted us a photographic exhibit, you can see what a smaller house bending around the corner, California ranch style, does to this site. I think this is a better nature of the house. I could also see this house in certain areas being a two-story house. Pushing, a two-story house band across here, working with what I'm reading here. If you notice, the curb, and there's no sidewalk, so that also helps. But the curb and the adjacency of this home is pretty close. You're pretty close to that corner. Put in this really large home with a lot of vertical emphasis. And in its massing, this corner right here is going to be right in front of you. I would have landscaped this a little bit more if as a presentation, because that tends to hide what I'm seeing. But I don't see this house, the same way staff has been seeing it for a long time, being appropriate to the site. I think the scale, the site, the adjacency of the neighborhood, it has mass and scale issues. The photographs confirm it for me. Now we have a 3-car garage really close to the street. That's big. I think that this house is overbuilt, bordering on mansionization purely for that purpose, and not considering the site, working better with the existing architecture and the neighborhood, and getting better proportioned from all the different points of view, because you're going to be looking at this house from all the different points of view. I think it needs to be restudied significantly and work with our staff and our architect to really get it to be really great for this neighborhood. What a signature neighborhood we have in the Arroyo, or in the Arroyo Canyons. I don't think this is close.
Thank you. Brian?
I would agree with both you and staff. And it is interesting when you look at it as through this packet of today of projects, of which one just doesn't look right when I looked at it. One of the things that I thought, and it is a mass and scale issue, on their neighborhood analysis, the total actually in the neighborhood is an average of about 0.17. They came up with 0.18. That's around 32 to 3,500 square foot on this lot, based on the size of the lot, that average. Then they're proposing a 4,700 square foot house. I could support something that came back closer to that square footage. And I think you're right. The house doesn't fit the site.
Thank you. I have similar concerns. I think the massing of it is overwhelming for that corner. Just looking at the elevations, you see sort of this, as the street sort of, and then you start going down to the side of it. Just look at the elevation. It kind of climbs up, and then it just, have this huge flat 2-story on the front area where the street is, 40 feet, I think, wide. And so this face is sort of this large face on the small street compared to some of the other, like Royal and those kinds of things. I think those are a little wider. And so, I mean, to even start thinking about or talk about the detailing of it, I think we first need to deal with the massing of it, and I don't think that we're there. It almost makes more sense. I know that you tried to pull this back from the setback, but it almost makes more sense to sort of have a first story here to sort of help it to gradually move up into there. It needs some help there. And I would guess, I'm not too sure, I mean, exactly which houses these were and where they were taken, but some of these I did see as I was driving around that area, and I would venture to guess that some of them are on Royal, which is a wider street, which is a different feel to it with those large houses there. And this street is different in that sense, and you could tell just by looking at the neighboring houses there, the way they were, sited on the lots. I think we've said enough on it. I think consider a motion on this. Maybe we could go over some of the comments.
Yes. If you could, because we would like to continue to work with the applicant in a constructive way, it would be really terrific if you could give us a little bit more detailed feedback, and perhaps if you would like to start with the conditions as a point of departure. Obviously, it's a lot to review, and we've definitely heard your views on the massing. If we could also, if the wording of those real first two conditions as stated were the intention of those first two was to address the massing. So if you could check the wording of those, revise that as needed, and help us understand if you agree with the assessment of the details. Thanks.
I would also maybe, venture to say reconsider the style, that maybe the style that they've decided to select here is part of the problem. I think also 4,700 square foot house is almost 4,800 it's too big for the neighborhood. I mean, we go down to the barrel tiles and all the other ones are all superfluous until you've dealt with what the house is going to be.
And I think number two, when you start talking about the variation in roof height, and as they came up, they said that we do have variation in the roof heights, but their fascia line is exactly the same all the way across, which sort of just creates this little crown, and then everything else is above it. You can't really tell the variation of height in there. Maybe play with that a little bit to give it some hierarchy and those kinds of things on there.
If I may suggest, when we worked with the applicant, let me start again. As the board considers, if you'd like to, there's not a need to, but if you consider suggestions or recommendations to the applicant, as we did, we focused our considerations and recommendations to the applicant on the second story. But in looking at the project again, we thought, the L shape of the house may actually prevent, and the location of the house may prevent it, even if it does have a second story that's significantly stepped back, may prevent it from fitting into the neighborhood as designed. So if you wanted to give the applicant some clues as to the overall design of the house, if that is an issue for you, the location of the house, the footprint of the house, which is something that that staff didn't really get into for a variety of reasons with the applicant.
I think for me, you guys.
That area here of the way you're using the first floor, stepping into a second floor, and the roofs are kind of, that's something more of what we'd like to see instead of, where's the other view, which is just flat in the front, which is basically the narrowest area of the street. Because, that's something that we're always asking of the houses anyway, when they're sort of gradually stepping back as you go up.
Variation in plane, is that the...
Right, and I know that they tried to do some of that, because in the corner they do step back in that front area, but then once you start going back, and then you have sort of the two-story open, I guess, atrium or entry area. That that sort of creates a big flat face in the front. And, I mean, this isn't a big deal, but I mean, the garage itself, I mean, kind of kicking it off in that little angle kind of throws me off, too. Just make it straight, I mean.
I don't mind, the garage on the side street, actually, if you're going with this style of house, made sense.
Right.
But
that little roof as it continues over and hits the house, kind of, because it's going to hit at an angle, which means that it's going to come down the face this way, and I don't know.
that actually, doesn't that work against them for the height of the house when it's attached?
I'm sorry.
I was thinking when the garage is attached to the house, the lowest point is now down at the foot of the garage, as opposed to if the garage was detached.
Correct.
Right. So that's working against that. Because one of the thoughts, when I looked at the house, it seemed like they got as high as they could get it and then kind of flattened the roof just to get as high as they could get it. And that, that's a view that you won't see in the public because you'll be standing on the street looking at it. But on the elevations, it really looked to me that it's, again, trying to get as much into that square footage as possible. And
in the staff report, it says they do have a little more height they can add. They're not at the max.
They're not at the max.
No.
Thoughts that come to mind when you look at, you go to sheet A 2.1. Okay, you come in the front door, and
you want to go down on the board and do it.
Well, you come in the front door and you got this grand entrance. Okay, grand entrances need to breathe. They need to be. You need to have the right perspective to sit back out and see them. So you got this grand entrance right here, but this is not a well drawn drawing, but it's pretty indicative of how close you are to that curb. If you want grandeur, you need to have proportion. That entrance is way too tall to achieve that. When you look at the site plan, you can see how close it is. It's just a mere 20 feet or so from the property line. 20 feet is like from here to Stephanie. It's not that far. And then, boom, there's this grand entrance. That purpose is for making the biggest mansion entrance you have. There's no problem with mansion, getting it big and getting grand. But does it work on the site? You can see an example of what we got here. There's the entrance. You can see how close it is.
Right.
It's just way too big, so proportions are significantly out of scale. So if you turn then to sheet A 2.1, the first floor plan, you come in that big door and you got a 10-foot high ceiling, but at this entrance, I think you have a vaulted space, so you have an even grander entrance at the front. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but how does it work to the outside? So, that it could be a problem. You then have a 10-foot high ceiling. So there again, high ceilings, high grandeur. Does it work in this shoehorned site along this corner? I think it's too high. You then walk inside the house and you notice that the whole first floor is on the same plane. But when you look at the site, I think that you can lower a little bit. You can look around and see that the property is dropping down a little bit. Well, maybe you can take that, and as you break from the kitchen if you break from the entrance to the kitchen, maybe that could be a point of dropping. By doing the dropping, you then see what it looks like on the outside, and then maybe you can drop the roof plate height at that point. Oh, there's that break that you were talking about, Mr. Yu, that maybe there's a break in here, and then this starts breaking down a little bit more. Okay, you start seeing it working with the site. Maybe that kitchen or that family room area doesn't need to be 10 feet. Maybe it could be 9 feet. But if you've dropped it down, you can then maybe utilize 10 feet because you've gained a foot going down. You're demolishing the whole home, so why not consider digging down a little bit deeper in that area, maybe, to try to make it work on that site. And I know you're looking at me going, this guy's a nut. I've been doing this all my life. Believe me, I've been doing it all my life. You say you're a licensed architect, right? Correct?
Licensed architect.
Okay, but you're a licensed contractor. Okay, I'm both. And that doesn't mean I'm better or whatever, but I've been doing this for a long time like you have. And you see things that are successful. We want you to be so successful. But as I said from the very beginning, when you look at it, why is it struggling? And it's struggling because there's not a lot of creative imagination. You're so hung up about the corbels not being wood, and you're forgetting about making it work on that site. The corbels are later.
The railing, horizontal pickets, whatever, that's later. Make it work on that site. So this house is just, it's not necessarily 4,800 square feet that's the issue. It's 4,800 square feet and not being creative about making it work and play and turn. When you look at these homes, they may be 4,800 square feet, but there's something going on with these homes that you go, there's something there. Look at this that's how good successful architecture are. And this neighborhood, which is beautiful, needs great work. And if you're the homeowner, you want this to be great. You really do. You bought a great piece of property and a great neighborhood. You deserve to have really a great home. And this one is struggling by not being creative and making it work on the site. And on top of that, a lot of square footage.
Okay, so
Those are some of the pointers.
okay, so how about if I can take a stab at crafting a condition that captures the essence of these comments. We have
goes in there somewhere.
if we go to number 1 and 2, which speaks to the massing. Reconsider the building design to focus the massing away from the northeast corner of the site. Consider stepping the mass away from the front corner of the site, more similar to the way the rear of the house is stepped.
Or not just the corner, but the front street as well, too.
Okay, so reconsider the massing so that it steps away from the majestic frontage. And so that it's redesigned so that the building bulk appears reduced as viewed from the street. Consider reducing the size of the house or reducing the appearance of size as viewed from the street. And
Front entry vertical mass, if you can see it right here in this picture.
right, so I'll cover the larger pieces first. We also heard potentially reconsider the style of the house, potentially consider a detached garage, which may reduce the appearance of the massing and bulk, introduce more variation in not only the roof height, but the overall forms of the structure. Consider reducing the entry and or moving that away from the front property line, and reduce the verticality as viewed from Majestic Way. So does that capture the sense of the massing
Also
comments?
say explore the interior first floor and even second floor by lowering interior elevations to follow a bit of the contours and even introduce a little bit of artificial contours to the interior.
Okay, so because we try to stay away from talking about the interior conditions,
But its effect will be
how about
on the exterior.
How about we suggest to step the whole house down along with the contours, which may include revising the floor plates on both the ground floor and the second floor to work better with the contours.
Yep.
And then we get into all of the details. What you may want to consider is having a catch-all condition that suggests if the style is to be a Spanish Revival style, all details shall be authentic to that style, and perhaps you can, if you like, consider pointing out to us which of these conditions you think maybe don't apply.
Don't apply?
Yeah, for instance, what we've heard from the board in previous meetings, and just just to reiterate to the board and to the applicant and the audience, we typically will give advice, well, always will give advice to the applicant based on what we've heard from the board and our professional opinion, but not our subjective taste or opinion. So what we've heard from the board often is the requirement to use a two-piece barrel clay tile roof. We've heard that the score lines, which imitate a sort of stone, is sometimes used in the French provincial style, but almost never on the Spanish Mission revival style. So number 5, we suggested to omit it. Number 6, the applicant has no problem with that, and we've heard that consistently from the board. Number 7, we've also heard consistently from the board traditional wood corbels. We actually don't typically hear from the board to use wood corbels at the roof, but to use exposed rafter tails at the roof, so we'll revise that. But that they should be exposed wood rafter tails and with a dark contrasting color. We know that there's a solution to that the fire department has no conflict with. For number 8, perhaps rather than putting forth a solution, that we should revise that to use a railing design more appropriate and authentic to the Spanish Mission revival style. Number 10 is an important one.
Light and appearance is fine, too. I mean,
Okay, light and appearance.
That was ultimately when you look at the drawing, it's pretty heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Number 9, we almost always include a recommendation for drought-tolerant landscaping. Number 10 is something we've heard often from the board. Simplify the windows by eliminating the precast surround, provide a recessed installation for the windows with a bullnose detail at the head and jamb, add a wood sill. To this, we should probably add provide quality wood or wood windows, or if the board thinks that it's okay, we could also include fiberglass. I'm not sure aluminum would be appropriate on this house, and if the board is inclined to recommend only a wood window due to the location and the style of the house, we wouldn't disagree with that. And our typical trash enclosure, mechanical equipment, which is always important to the board. So if there's agreement or disagreement or additions to that, because we do want to work with the applicant in a holistic and productive manner.
Definitely. I certainly agree with what staff is saying, and I'm still a little concerned about the size of the floor area. I know you mentioned that there's a way to make it work, but when you start looking at the neighborhood plans, the only house that's really bigger than this is the one on Princess Way, and it's a 50-foot setback, and you can't even see it from the street. When you have a house that's only got a 20-foot setback, I don't know quite how you're going to put that much square footage into it. So I'm, you get down a little bit, you don't have to have the 3-car garage. And I feel burned on other houses when I haven't said this before, but this one's too big at 4,700 for me. Somewhere around a 2-car garage, 3,500 square feet would be more appropriate, unless they come back very creatively and demonstrate how they can do it. And I'll defer to the professional architects.
So is that something?
That was a consideration that Stephanie mentioned, reducing the size of the house. That was a consideration.
So how about, because the way that I think I read it off was consider reducing the size of the house or reducing the appearance of the size of the house.
Right.
Would you like it to stand alone as strongly consider reducing the size of the house? And do the other board members agree with that statement?
Well, one of the things I think that it's going to be very difficult on this site to come up with a house that can be almost 4,800 square feet. Does that 4,800 square feet include a 3-car garage, or is that exclusive? 3-car garage.
Typically, the garage is not included in the size of the house.
So we got a 4,800 square foot house, plus these openings that don't add square footage, but they add mass. So when you look at sheet A 2.1, you got this covered openings that add that mass on the second floor. Not counted, but it does add bulk
Right.
and mass.
The whole entry area.
Plus, you then got another maybe 800 square feet or so for three-car garage. You start getting up there in the bigness, the mass. I would say that consideration or strongly recommend significant reduction in square footage of the house, somewhere, as you're saying, around 3,500.
That cuts the mass out of the garage then, too.
Yeah, and it is especially on this site. I also want to remind us that there's a chance that when this house is heard again, there may be other DRB members.
Right.
And we're always leery when we didn't participate in that review to come,
Right.
and to
Exactly.
not step on review toes. So I think we should be considering that when it is reheard, if it goes that way, and we have two other members who are not here, if we were pretty clear on the big issues, they will say, yeah, these guys, they were looking at the stuff, so that there's no ambiguity for them.
And that is really a concern. You're absolutely right. The ambiguity, because we've seen that before.
Right.
Just a note to staff, the window that they do show, they're actually showing a wood interior, fiberglass exterior window, but they're showing the grills inside the glass, so we should make a note that we do prefer the three-dimensional.
That's typically.
Yeah. So just so they don't come back and say that's what you approved here, so we're then. Do we have a motion for this?
I was going to do the quick math, but I don't think it's
Oh, okay.
necessary. But if you just look at the covered open patios and stuff, and add those things in real quickly, I mean, there's a good 1,200, there's a good 1,500 square feet when you just look at it, 1,000 square feet or so of covered airspace that has roof over it, and it's not counted in the FAR, but it does have that visual look that there's something going on here that continues to say, why is this not working?
So as a separate condition, we'll include strongly consider reducing the actual size as well as the apparent size.
Okay, that works.
And that's in addition to all that other verbiage we read earlier.
I'll move to return for redesign with conditions as noted.
Second.
Okay, a motion was made to return the project for redesign with the conditions as discussed. This will be a roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 3-0.
And
Staff would actually like to request a break.
That's what I was going to do, yes. Let's have a break. 5-minute break. Run to the
What do we got left?
That's the Glen Oaks project.
Glen Oaks.
Glen Oaks.
Oh,
No.
we're doing the
I was just
Glendale.
looking at this picture,
Right.
sorry.
Oh, what about the Glen Oaks one?
You want to do the Glen Oaks one?
Yeah,
We're going to follow the same, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Young, I guess we are on.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome back. Next on the agenda is 1 PDR-2009-019A, 1700 West Glen Oaks Boulevard.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The next item before you is design review 2009-019A. It's a review of a proposal for a sign program on a new commercial building located at 1700 West Glen Oaks Boulevard in the C1 zone. Let me go over with you what's on the board. Right here?
At that house.
This is actually sort of a location map. Glen Oaks is here, Western is here, the site is here. This isn't the site plan. I can put the site plan up if you'd like.
No, I think we're okay.
The building frontages are here. This is the frontage on West Glen Oaks. West Glen Oaks. This is the frontage on Western. And you can see where the proposed wall sign locations are. These are details of the signs. This is the wall sign here and then here and the neon here. The color palette the applicants are proposing are here. The actual sign program you got a copy of and a location map.
Do we have any questions? Oh, you're going to keep going, right?
I can keep going if you'd like, or not.
Oh, you're doing such a nice job, Roger.
Staff is pretty supportive of the sign program. I can summarize that. We recommend approval. We didn't have any conditions, and I think there was one sort of item that was contained in the staff report that we sort of were going back and forth on. We ended up not making it a condition. But.
Okay.
You want me to mention that?
Sure.
Okay. That was actually, let me find it now in the staff report. It was in the signage design in relation to context section. The proposed wall signs are well composed. The metal panels work well with the contemporary style of the building, and that's the corrugated metal that you can see in the details. At the ground floor, there's a concern that the proposed 2-foot height of the corrugated metal panel is too large for the area, and you can see that right there, but it's more apparent on the Glen Oaks elevation because of where the fenestration ends and the balcony begins. There's some concern that it's too large for the area. On the other hand, if the dimensions of that were reduced, the signage would really be smaller than desired, and so in the end, that was discussed in the staff report, but not made any condition. So,
How much space is there? You know
there
that?
is 2 feet, I believe.
There's 2
Yeah.
foot, and
Yeah, I think that's what the applicant said.
Right.
You can ask him, but I believe that's what he told me.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Thank you. Let's see. So one card that I have is Vartan Yaputsan. Sorry, I butchered your name. I tried to.
And hopefully you were here on time.
Oh, he was here. I saw him. He was back there waiting.
Whoa.
Could you say your last name for me and your address?
My name is Vartan Yapujan. I'm with A&A Signs, 4635 Aldra Street, Los Angeles, California. I'm the applicant on the project and also the sign contractor. I want to show you guys what the sign's going to look like. This is actually 24 inches right here. Let's take a look at it just to give you an idea of what the sign's going to be.
If you could speak into the mic, please.
Yeah, the area that the sign's going to go on the Glen Oaks elevation is actually 28 inches is what we're working with. That's the actual sign area, but the signs we're proposing are going to be 24 inches set at the max, and we're going to have 18-inch max letters on it. These letters right here are 12 inches, so the letters will be actually bigger than this.
So the actual area there, you're saying is 28 inches?
Correct.
Okay.
And so an applicant could then conceivably have 24-inch high maximum height of their letters?
No.
No.
The max height of the letters are 18 inches.
18, okay.
But
That's spelled out in the
Oh, right. So when I'm looking at the
program.
design, or the drawing, it's saying 24 by 165. That's just
that's
the area.
The area. Like
Okay.
that's essentially the back panel. That we're
Gotcha.
gonna be using.
Okay.
Is that the exact same corrugated metal that's at the building?
That's it.
Same gauge and
Same
everything?
everything.
Yeah.
So I'm just worried about those corners. They're going to be all tweaked out because they don't have the cover on them.
Well, behind it, we're going to have like a raceway panel where we're going to put all our electrical, and the raceway panel is going to be, it's going to go pretty close to the edges. You know, it's all contingent to whatever the tenant signage is going to say.
But it's not the full size of the panel, though, right?
We're going to have
basically
probably
the back
like a projection of maybe like 4 or 5 inches on each side.
bit. Right, so it'll be, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you've done?
We've already put that up because the tenant was having a problem with his fire inspection. He needed an address up, so we just put the address up just to have it there.
No, those over here. So this section of what I'm seeing here is actually the back of the sign is going to be this corrugated material. See how it's corrugated like this?
Correct.
That's how it's going to look?
Correct.
Okay, good.
But that sign right there, it doesn't have like a separate piece of corrugated. It's already going on the corrugated face of the building.
Right,
so
but
we're
this
just-
one's going to have a separate piece of corrugated.
Exactly.
Cool.
We're just trying to match in with the rest of the corrugated metal.
What is the dimension on this side of it? The overhang.
I can't see it from here.
It looks a little smaller than the other side.
1, 2.
But there's 28 inches there, too?
This frontage is only 24 on this one.
This is exactly 24 there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since there is like a slope on certain frontages of the building, like we do lose like sign area.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to do was submit some colors to you guys because we have only 3 colors submitted as the sign colors for the property. I want to resubmit a couple more colors to you guys.
You know, most of these are rented out already, right? So you already know what the tenant signs are going to basically be. I mean, a Remedy Drug is in one. There's a
Yeah,
juice
we're only
place.
missing,
or-
I think, 2 tenants.
2 tenants, right?
In a pink berry, is that what's going on?
No, that'd be interesting to see which one. And we're working in the dark end?
So you
or-
want to add these 2 to these 3?
Correct. Because we think it'd just be a little bit better just to have like more color on the building, you know. As
Well,
far as
that's
signage.
Remedy Drugs, too.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking.
that's their color
Exactly.
style. So
Right.
Well, the logos are not proposed to have any restrictions on the color. So
Okay.
I see.
Right, 'cause
those
tenants have-
But if you
those
put
2
these in, the
colors are
letters become
just for
these.
the lettering. And
Well, I'm saying, I mean, like Remedy Drugs is their logo seems to be Remedy Drugs.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, that can be. If they had just a sign that had just letters on it, then they would be restricted in the colors they could use. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you can limit the size of the logo sign, as I think this board has done before, to 2 foot by 2 foot,
and I
then
think it's already limited to that.
right.
program.
And then just to remind you that the purpose of a sign program is so that tenants can come and go and have a level of flexibility without having to
right.
come back to the board.
Exactly.
Staff does have some concerns regarding particularly the red color. The applicant and I have discussed that back and forth.
Okay, so we need to consider what we're going to do with these 2.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one other
Go
question. I understand that the width of the storefront affects the lengths of the sign or the spacing of the sign, but, I mean, is it normally that everyone's a little different, or is there a concern of any consistency? And so
Yeah,
the guy with the
I have
little,
the same concern, too.
the 24 by 120s, and then there was one 160, and there's one 177, and there's one 165. Is there a consistency? I kind of look to staff too to say, I mean, it would seem logical that you'd try to have a consistent thing if you're going to be consistent
Yeah.
on a sign plan.
well, the zoning code says the ratio is 1 by 1. So whatever linear frontage you have, you multiply that 1, and that's what like your square
Right.
footage is going to be.
No, we understand how you...
With a minimum of 20, you know. So
Right.
whoever doesn't have 20 feet, we're giving them 20 feet just to leave it standard, so it's not going to get too small. But for people that have bigger tenant spaces and are paying more rent, we want to give them more sign area.
But it's all driven by the height, though. I mean, they're all totally maximum of 20. But I'm sorry, 24 in the space, right? Right.
No, 18-inch high letters maximum and a 24-inch high backing.
Correct.
Right. It's just the length of it that gets...
Right, okay.
Yes, staff felt with the consistency of the metal backing, with the consistency of the font style, the size of the font, everything else, that the length of the sign wasn't as important.
Right, I got you. Okay.
I mean, one concern that I do have is that we're using the same material that the architect used to define certain parts of the building, and then now to apply it in other parts where they weren't intended to be used, kind of concerns me a little bit. In, I guess, doing the signage for this, did you work at all with the architect of the building?
Yeah, we did. We worked with Alan Malikian on this project, and his whole recommendation was just to have reverse letters. You know, he didn't foresee, like, you know, backdrops or whatnot. Our original intention was to have these as under marquee signs, to pull them to the front of where the overhang is on the second floor, and to also have them as overhang signs on the second floor as well, up on the top bar, you can see on the elevation behind you. But you know, with zoning codes the way they are, you know, we're not allowed to project over 6 square feet, so you know, it's just not viable for us to use that.
So, I mean, maybe am I clear? So, on, like, for instance, these ones that are on plaster, they're going to have the corrugated metal behind the sign? Oh, okay, I'm glad that you pointed. I was looking at that.
All of the wall signs are proposed to have the corrugated metal. And that's to provide a backdrop to the reverse channel letters, but it's also to hide the
electrical connections.
Box.
Yeah.
But I mean, just like here,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
sort of this corrugation that's supposed to end here, kind
All
of
of a sudden
protrude
you-
out by like 2 feet, you know, and it's not even the full length of it. It's just, you know, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, we're setting the maxes. You know, I mean, the tenants are allowed to, you know, maybe make the
come on, you know
panels
they're going to
20
go
inches.
max.
Right. This is advertising we're talking about,
I
right?
mean, that's the panel max, you know. But
Right. How much can you get into that 5-pound bag?
That's right, 4.95.
Usually 6. Oh, you know.
Okay,
'cause,
well, do we have any other questions?
Thank you. Can you plug it in?
Yeah,
No,
plug
let's
it in.
plug it in. I saw you brought the battery. Come on, let's get the whole.
Keep myself a little bit right here.
That's only 18 volts. It won't hurt for long.
And thanks for bringing that in. That's actually a good
Yeah,
visually.
actually. Bzz. Hey, there you go.
Nice.
We're using, I only had red LEDs, so
Right.
but we're going to be proposing white neon.
Got it.
I just
Right.
don't want to electrocute myself. 12,000 volts.
Gotcha. Right. Oh, and it's neon as opposed to LED?
Yeah, we're going to be using neon lighting instead. This is LED.
Right.
I kinda
Why
like
is that?
The diffuse sort of weird lettering and thing in the back is kind of cool on the corrugated.
Is that, I mean, is neon more efficient than the LEDs?
It's a lot better. It
Is
illuminates
it?
a lot
Illuminates, right.
Gives you an even consistent flow of light.
Right.
I mean, you can see it right here, how the LED breaks off.
Yeah.
See, it's kind of like a digital squarey look.
Yeah.
We don't want that on our signs.
Gotcha. Right. Okay.
Already we're breaking the light up. with
Yeah, because of the corrugation.
An even flow to it.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm assuming you guys aren't here for this part of it, so,
No,
okay.
They picked the last one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll close it and discuss.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. You know, I don't have. I like the style of sign. I am a little concerned about the corrugated thing, and you brought it up. I'm glad, you know, because I know the building. I drive by it every day coming from work, and I'm wondering if how that's going to look.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
I mean, the only other choices would be some kind of just a smooth backing, but then I guess you have the issue on the corrugated surfaces. You're reversing it.
Right.
I mean, or do you do it whatever the surface is, the backing is matches the surface? Is that?
I think that would be cleaner, I guess.
So like on the ones that are on the plaster, they're a flat back, and the ones that are on the corrugated,
Right.
duplicate the corrugation.
Yeah, but then the lights will all look different. And
Yeah, right. I did have one other question I wanted to ask, but it's not the applicant's issue. It's the Italian cypress trees. But
the little
we're
ones?
past the landscape. Thank you.
Yeah, this isn't really landscape.
Well, they're actually, okay, never mind. They are a little odd.
Is this the one you're talking about right
Yeah, they're 40 feet high at my neighbor's house.
just starting. It's okay.
Yeah, but they're under a balcony. That's what's really weird.
We'll go ahead and double check
Thank
the
you.
landscape plan. That
No, I
was
think they were
approved.
on it, because I think this
Okay.
came up, we all got a letter from some concerned citizen asking about the landscaping back about 6 months ago.
What do you think of these colors? What do you think? What is your opinion on it?
And that's for the lettering. I like the browns and the grays a lot. If we're not restricting the applicant's logo, they can go any color they want in their logo. So I kind of question jumping out to two more primary colors.
Okay. Almost done.
No, sorry. Want some coffee? Okay.
We'll go to you next. Go ahead.
Oh,
You know, signs are always weird. You know, you put a lot of thought into them, and and then you look at what you thought would be good, and then you look at it and go, why did we do that? I've always struggled with signage. I think that until you put them up and you look at them, most of the time it's 50-50, so. I have a feeling that Alan has a lot of control on what he wants, because he did such a nice job on this building. I think that if he'll play an integral part of making it right.
And I think that's what I'm worried about. I wonder if you had a chance to give it his blessing on this one.
I think
I'm not certain that
Yeah.
the architect is involved or that we can require that.
Okay. That's just an option, huh?
It would be interesting to at least get a note, an opinion from the architect, because he's
Well-
done a nice job on the building.
Yeah, I think as the applicant stated, there was a sense by the architect, as shown in the drawings that you saw when you approved the building, that the letters would be floating without a back panel. And I think for constructability purposes, and because of the particular features on this building, the sign designer had to introduce elements that were likely not foreseen by the architect.
Right. And, the street dress looks great. It really dresses up the building. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. No, I'm struggling with it. I mean, if it was my building, I wouldn't want to put the corrugator where the thing is not supposed to go. But I guess it's not my building, but
Right.
I'm really struggling with it.
Well, I'll tell you.
I'm not too
in 3
crazy
months
about the
when-
different sizes of the signs and all that stuff. I mean, I wish we could have sort of a modulated 120, whatever,
Right.
I guess.
The board can condition a certain length or size of sign.
I think what saves it on the length is having looked at this and knowing, if it's the height is really what's driving it. I mean, if it was a 3-foot-high letter, then it's going to stretch. If it's only 18, thank you. No matter what the name of those businesses are, and as he said, there are only 2 spaces still left, so we know sitting here today, at least the original tenant, what the signs are going to read.
Right.
And I don't think, as I remember, none of them have 32 letters in their name, so they're not going to be stretching as far.
Mud rug or.
Right. The backing is the only thing that I. But as I kind of said, it's not our building. And I guess it's tough to go back and tell them to change it after they've done it if we approve it, but.
Okay. You guys have a motion on this?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll move to approve with staff's recommendations, which, and I'm sorry, you had one concern, which was what we just talked about, the backing difference, is that?
No, our concern was probably easier to point out.
And we have to make a decision on the colors, too.
The signs underneath this access balcony have enough room.
Right. Okay.
They may be a little bit crowded as they are because, the space between the windows and the balcony is 2 feet, 24 inches. On the other hand, if we reduce the height, I guess, of the sign to less than 24, all of a sudden everything gets reduced. The lettering is not 18 anymore, it's 14 or 12. And it's, it's less size than desired. And so there was that balance. And in the end, we thought it was important to mention that to you, but we didn't condition a reduction in this because we felt that the size and the proportions were fine, as shown.
Well, he's saying it's 28 inches, so maybe we could just say that you keep the same dimension of that. If it's 28 versus 24, then it's good. If it happens to be smaller than that, then should we make them reduce it then to...
I'm not clear what you mean.
Because we're sort of approving 28 and 24. Those are the critical numbers, right?
Right. For the backing, 24 or at most 28.
Oh, no, 28 would be the size of below the balcony to the top of the aluminum.
This?
Right. That's what he stated. He said there's a face of 28 inches.
Okay.
That's what he stated.
Okay.
Right? So
So
we're approving that within that 28 inches, the 24-inch and an 18-inch letter
correct.
is good for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So if it's different than that, then, I don't know, do they have to come back or what?
Well, I mean, the building's already built, so if there's 28 inches, they're 28 inches. And you, right now, are approving the signage on the site. So if you want something less than 24 inches, we need to know now.
Oh, no. No,
Right.
I'm saying it's 28 inches, 24, 18 is good for us.
Okay.
But what if someone goes out there and it happens to be 20? Then
What
we
happens
should
to be
adjust,
20?
we should adjust to that.
What happens to be 20?
Never mind. All right, let's go. Let's get going.
Yeah.
We're going under the assumption that it's 28, and so that's what we're approving. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think we always rely on the applicant's dimensions. So here, I think it should be no different. I think we perhaps were not clear because in some cases it was 24 inches, some cases it was 28 inches. So I thought, were pointing out just that for you to look at that and make sure that that piece was considered. We didn't have a strong enough feeling about it to even condition it one way or the other.
Okay.
All right, I'll move acceptance.
To approve?
Yeah, move to approve.
Project with, staff did not have any conditions.
Right. Do you have any, we had the color here. With
Can we put in one consideration to maybe have a conversation with the architect, or?
Depends on, I guess.
Yeah.
Consideration, so he could do whatever he wants with
Well,
it. I mean,
well, the challenge there is that if the architect would recommend something completely different, then it would have to come back to you.
well, then they have to discuss what they want to do. I mean, it's not.
Okay,
Because the architect
so-
really doesn't have any power to say what he wants to. It's
Right.
the owner, right? That
Right.
dictates.
So, a consideration to consult with the architect regarding the design of the sign program.
Yes.
And were there any considerations regarding the color?
I would be acceptable with the blue. I don't like the red.
So one without the other.
Well, with the blue goes with the, the grays and the steels.
So we're approving the blue palette and not the red one, and the other steel or gray and brown
And
colors.
steel, right.
And those are part of the sign program.
I don't want to throw a wrench in here,
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you do. You're tired.
but because signage is one of those weird things. But when I look at this and I think about the space over the transom, meaning that soffit area, I believe that you're trying to put too much of a sign material, the corrugated material, in that relatively small space, and it's going to look shoehorned in. And when you see this perspective, two-point perspective photograph, I think that there's a potential opportunity, and I should just be quiet, but
We like
I
opportunities.
struggle with it, being quiet. What about, we have the balcony here. Okay, we have the balcony here in a section. And the space that we're concerned about is the space that we're putting in that 2-foot material in this 2-foot space above the transom window. There's a lot of material in there. What about, since we have, all these signs have a balcony either underneath it, and the second ones are not so bad, but all the bottom ones have a balcony above it. What if these signs were suspended from...
I think he mentioned that. And there's a
Yeah,
code issue with that.
that was their initial
Excellent. I think that
proposal.
we should approve this project independently, and let's go.
Say second.
You know, because when it's suspended, you don't have that issue of trying to put in too much within that open
Right.
space. It just is.
Unfortunately, when it's
And that's kind of
suspended,
fun.
it becomes a different kind of sign, and they're only allowed 6 square feet.
Okay.
As opposed to 2 by 10, 20 square feet.
Well, as opposed to 1 for 1, depending on the frontage.
Oh, I see. So that would only, for the whole building, they only get.
I mean, that's the
They
way we
would get
want
6 square feet of
Okay, so I'm going to listen now. What if we suspended the sign in front of a 20-foot shop space? Just what is the maximum?
6 square feet.
6 square feet, so that would mean
Per tenant.
2 by 3. Okay, yeah, it's too small. Okay, it's going to look fabulous.
Well, at least it confirms that staff is, again, on the same page as the board. This is something we explored with the applicant early on.
I second it. I think it's going to be fine. I've seen your work before. You guys do very good work. It's going to be, I think it'll be just fine. And what we're probably struggling with is, it'll work itself out.
What could be. That was no on the red, yes
I
on the
did no on the red. You guys,
I'm okay with both. I mean,
you're okay with both?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Okay,
That's what
so
happens when there's three of us.
we need to clarify this
Right.
before I take the vote.
I'd say no on red, but if you guys are okay.
You're making the motion.
I'm making the motion, but I'll look at my board here. You guys, okay. I'd say I'll make the motion with blue only. Let's see what
Okay.
happens.
Okay, a motion to add the blue color.
Right.
Or the blue color palette, because I think there were 3 or 4 colors. And then a consideration to consult with the architect regarding the design of the sign program.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
that'll be my motion.
it's fiery flamingo.
Okay, is someone going to second this?
Do we have choices?
You have to make your own motion.
I will second the motion.
Okay, a motion was made to approve the project with 1 additional condition and a consideration. Roll call, Mr. Ellis.
Yes.
Mr. Insua.
Yes.
Mr. Yu.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Sorry, Red.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, too. Okay.
Okay, next project, 1-PDR 2009-028-A 350 North Glendale Avenue. And we're actually looking at the project first, so we'll go with that.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. All right, finally. Actually, the last 2 projects are sort of related. A new and remodel of a shopping center, and then the sign program to go with those shopping centers. So I thought maybe I'd speak about them together, and then you obviously will need to make separate motions. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, finally, good evening again. The next item before you are design review case numbers 2009-028 and 041. Review of a proposal to remodel 3 existing one-story buildings and add 2,820 square feet between those buildings, thereby attaching them together to form one commercial project, and then along with that, a sign program for the project. The project is located at the corner of North Glendale Avenue and Lexington Avenue in the C2 zone. Let me go over with you what's on the board. There it is. You're looking at this area here. This is the perspective rendering from Lexington. The elevations of the project are here. This is the elevation that you'll see along Glendale. This is the elevation you'll see along Lexington. This is the site plan of the project. Glendale's here, Lexington's here. It'll be a one-way driveway going in from Lexington and then exiting on Glendale Avenue. The buildings are shown in this maroon. The parking area paving is here, shown in gray, and landscaping in green. And then there are landscape plans below. Okay, the project site consists of 3 separate parcels and 3 existing commercial buildings. And actually, just as I'm saying this, I didn't put up the plan that shows the existing buildings where they are without the additions. Right. So I can do that. I'm sorry, I just didn't think
it's
that.
part of our package, so I think
It is? Okay, great. The buildings sit toward the rear of the lot along the interior property line. These buildings will be remodeled and approximately 2,800 square feet will be added between the buildings, resulting in a unified continuous shopping center. The project includes a common parking lot along Glendale Avenue with 38 parking spaces. And I'm just going to hit highlights in the staff report. That's fine. The new portion of the shopping center, the new portions of the shopping center are set back from the interior property line rather than adjacent to it, since the zoning code requires a minimum 5-foot and 8-foot average setback for commercial structures in the C2 zone adjacent to residential zones. So if you immediately east of the project site, there is a multifamily residential zone. So the building, the new parts of the building need to be a minimum of 5 feet from the property line, and the entire building needs to be set back an average of 8 feet. So what has happened is, you can see, I'll get up there again. This new building here is set back about 26 feet, so that the average from here to here is 8. And this is this is the minimum, and they're going to use that for utilities, the trash, and that sort of thing. These are existing, non-conforming, right up against the property line. That's fine. The average, though, is along the whole zone. The intent of the urban design guidelines is to create an active building street edge with a variety of color, textures, and variations in building plane. Challenging in this project because it involves remodeling of existing buildings that are already sited toward the interior of the property, and the addition of the commercial area between the buildings to create a unified shopping center. A 5-foot landscape buffer is proposed along Glendale Avenue adjacent to the parking lot, as required by code. Although the building is set back from the street edge and buffered by the parking lot, the integrated design of the project will provide a more cohesive appearance than the existing visual character of the three separate existing structures. And the proposed design attempts to achieve the intent of a variety of color, of texture, variations, and street edge by providing entries facing Glendale Avenue with large expanses of storefront. I mentioned to you the large setback of that one building. That's the minimum of where it can be to create the 8-foot average. The urban design guidelines do suggest or encourage courtyards or open spaces as one of their recommendations. This is a rather small project, and so it doesn't really lend itself to courtyards, particularly with the setback from residential zones. A small pocket courtyard is located near the interior L of the project, and that's a place where you can provide some additional landscaping within planters or in ground or outdoor seating, and that area is, I'll point that out, just right in here. Okay, and landscaping, the guidelines note that landscaping should play a significant role in the project. The plan indicates the proposed amount of parking lot and site landscaping exceeds code requirements. The parking lot is surrounded by landscape planters, which help buffer and screen the surface parking lot from the adjacent streets and residential buildings to the south. These planters include the required parking lot shade trees, along with additional shrubs and ground cover. In terms of mass and scale, the existing commercial buildings are all 1 story in height and range from a little over 15 feet in height to 20 feet. The majority of the new shopping center will be 20 feet in height, while the height of the incorporated middle building will remain at 24 feet. As such, the project appears as a taller 1-story development from the street edge, but it doesn't seem out of character with adjacent 2-story multifamily buildings to the south, Whole Foods across the street to the west, and the rather high bank building immediately north. The guidelines suggest that a physical mass of a building be minimized by breaking up the building expanse into smaller scale units. The northern portion of Glendale Avenue street frontage.
Did you know that over 60% of pedestrian vehicle accidents occur after dark? In order to better see pedestrians, the City of Glendale has
bins between the tenant spaces, and you can see that most clearly in the perspective rendering, or in the perspective rendering picture. The overall style of the project is one of an updated shopping center. The proposed building utilizes a variety of storefront design elements to create pedestrian interest and activity consistent.
You can report crime anonymously. You are not
includes staggered storefronts facing the street and recessed between full-height fins, transparent storefront windows set within aluminum-framed glass. Overall, the materials are appropriate for the proposed building style, although a few minor details could be improved. Those are detailed in the staff report. I can mention them if you'd like. Do you want me to go on with the improvements, or are you?
No, let's go over them.
Okay. One example, the lower northwest corner of the shopping center is wrapped with dark brown metal shingles, which is in contrast to the rest of the project's color and materials. Instead, the same spandrel glass or other metal standing seam metal roof color could be used on the northwest corner instead of the proposed dark metal shingle. Also, the building edges and columns in the middle portion of the shopping center are topped with a cornice detail that are not used anywhere else on the front elevation, and staff is suggesting them to be removed. The vertical fins between the storefronts are a nice architectural feature. However, different color and or material should be considered to provide additional interest. And that's the fin area. No decorative paving material is noted or identified. However, the guidelines recommend the use of simple and subtle decorative paving materials that relate to the building at vehicle entryways and walkways. And the use of decorative paving at the walkways and outdoor seating is recommended. The project's trash recycling electrical transformer enclosures are located toward the center of the project to the rear of the building addition. The intent of the guidelines is to design facilities that are not nuisances to the adjacent land uses and that are screened from the general public and tenants. The applicant has stated that a 5.5-foot high wall will be provided where necessary. It wasn't clear on the plans. There's an existing wall there over a portion of the project. The applicant has stated that wherever there is there is not a 5.5-foot wall, one will be installed. And I believe that is a condition. It is. And let me quickly go over the sign program. The applicant is proposing the following signs for the sign program: wall signs for each tenant space facing Glendale Avenue and Lexington Avenue in the parking lot. One pole ground sign along Glendale Avenue. Tenants are allowed one wall sign that directly faces a dedicated street, alley, mall, or owned parking area. So that's consistent with the zoning standards. Accessory ground sign is proposed to be located within the landscape buffer between the parking lot and Glendale Avenue. According to the applicant, the existing pole sign for the casual mail store that exists now will be reused and relocated a few feet south of its current location. This pole sign will be reoriented perpendicular to Glendale Avenue and approximately 25 feet high, with a sign area of 64 square feet. While only one ground sign is identified on the site plan, an additional ground sign can be permitted, but they're only proposing one. The architecture of the building includes, including its colors and materials, appears to be more of a contemporary design. The neighborhood features a variety of building design and sign designs. The guidelines state that the architecture and sign should work, the architecture of the building and the sign should work together to establish an internally coherent visual identity that is compatible with signs in the neighborhood. Signs should be designed as elements of their own right, and wall and ground signs should fit with the style, materials, colors of the building. The sign program proposes only individual channel letters with backlighting, a maximum letter height of 16 inches, 3 font styles, 3 colors permitted, blue, red, and white, corporate logos exempt from the font and color regulations. Signs shall comply with the city's sign regulations, and wall signs to be located on the horizontal spandrels. The intent of the sign program is to provide a more unified approach to signage for the entire commercial development, and as such, certain fonts and color choices for the proposed sign program should be modified to better fit within the proposed development. Further, the unspecified range of blues and reds is too broad. Color samples should be submitted for review and approval by staff prior to sign permit submittal. The proposed sign program provides for a fixed range of aluminum channel letters, locations, sizes, and colors. The submitted sign program doesn't allow box or can signs, nor does it provide limitations on national, regional, or food-related logo colors. Staff recommends limiting the size of the logos to 2x2 and allowing national logos to utilize box or can type signs. Staff has a couple concerns over certain provisions of the sign program. The font styles should be consistent with either all lettering being sans serif or regular serif. And I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, sorry. Staff recommends sans serif fonts, which are more streamlined and better match the more contemporary style of the building. And then the colors of the letters should be compatible with the building color palette. Staff suggests that black or gray be added to the color palette and shades of other colors be specified. The design of the proposed commercial shopping center is contemporary. The backlit channel letter wall signs are appropriate for the style of the proposed shopping center, while the existing pole sign will be reused and provide a new face. Staff is recommending approval of the sign program with 3 conditions. I can go over those conditions, otherwise they're in your staff report.
I think we see them. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have any questions for staff?
How many units actually are they proposing to put in there? Is that
that's not known yet. They have the ability to condense storefronts.
What's the maximum they could put in? Do we know that?
Looks like 9.
9.
That's probably a question that the applicant would know better.
Okay.
Okay. The first card is Danny Lord. you could state your name and address, please.
My name is Danny Lord, the architect, 4488 Estrando Drive, Encino, California. This project we start just after the new year. We work very closely with the staff for the last 4 months until we solve all the issues, then we submit for this hearing. And as the staff, Roger already presented all the detail. I just want to make a stress on, we had approved the plan before on the site.
I remember. And I loved the blue color that we wrestled around with a few years ago. I love that old building, the one that was here before.
Well, we all know we cannot afford to do it now. So the owner is struggling to see what we can do. Try to improve the look of this corner. We try to do, you can see from the perspective, we make it look like a one shopping center. I wonder if you can allow me just go to the conditions.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
We have no problem on one on the wall at the property line. Whenever it's needed, we do it. The second one is a light plan. We have no problem. When we have done, we submit to staff for them to preview first. The third one, which on our elevation we already removed. If you see our original picture of the existing middle building, they have some corners. We took that out.
It's on the drawing here, though.
Yes, the drawing is without the corners. It's already gone.
I believe that's what they're talking about, right?
That's the one.
Correct.
Oh no, I'm talking about the crown on top of the column.
You know what? Why don't you come up and show me? Because I thought that's what staff was discussing.
In the middle. No, in the middle. No, that's the one. Here. Okay. That's two. We have a crown on top of the two column. Okay. If you please to look at a picture of our submittal of the existing building, they have a straightforward capital of the column. So we removed that already.
Do we have the pictures? Did he submit pictures? And a material board by any chance?
So we have a material board.
Let me.
Okay, go on.
Okay, we have no problem if that's the concern on that top. That's what you're talking about. If that's one of the concerns, we can remove that too. Okay. No problem.
Is that, Roger, was the staff?
I believe that was the concern, what you pointed out.
Right, okay.
Okay, no problem. Number 4. Our vertical fin is actually the color of the building. We cannot give a different color unless we change the whole building color.
Well, I think the note was to consider breaking it up by having the building be one color and the fins be either a different tonality and I'm not color here, but I thought that's what staff was referring to, as opposed to one solid color for the whole building.
No, when I read it, it's just talk about the fin.
Consider an alternative cover for the vertical fins.
Yeah, right. That's a vertical fin.
You're correct.
This part.
The fin part, we're suggesting to be a different color than the building.
But that's the color of the building. If I change the color, the whole building color changed.
I think what they're saying is this color is one, through in here, these are different. That was the suggestion. But, okay.
Okay, we can clear that later.
We'll put a question mark on that one.
Okay. Number 5. Okay, this is the area they talk about the landscaping. The staff talking about this area, I point out there. That's the area.
Well, this actually says turns perpendicular to Glendale Bowl. Yeah, that could be, especially the corner.
That's the only area we are talking about. It's possible to add additional green or pots, whatever, but it's difficult because our trash route is through there. The trash bin going to be carried through there. We cannot.
In front of your store?
Yeah, the trash is in the back.
Right.
We go through this alley, come to this way, come out. So you cannot put additional.
Couldn't you just ramp one of these so you don't go over and around that way? You could come straight down through that?
We park in there. Legal. We have our legal parking there. Of
Right.
course, if you no parking, then we can do that.
Well, you have two handicap spots, so one of those could be ramped. You know.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have an access green area already.
Right.
We have our landscape architect, Bill Peacock. We did the extensive green area in here. Number 6. You talk about the paved area in front of the store. What we have is score line on the concrete. We have a limited, it's not big walking area in front of the store. If you look at our plan on in front of you, there's a site plan shows the score lines. And because we do have some kind of little slope as well on the sidewalk, so I prefer not to introduce different kind of a material because it creates dangerous, people walk in this zigzag area and very narrow already. So if if we have to do something, then we'll do it. But I prefer for keep as is. Number 7, we have no problem. Number 8, we have no problem. If there is any other question, I can be here to answer.
Do you have any other questions? I just have a question for you.
Yes.
In conceptualizing the fins that we're talking about, how did those come about, or what was your intent with those? I know it's to divide them up, but
we try to give the scale of each ownership of the store identity.
Okay.
That's the idea. And the guideline says you have to give a little bit unit size.
But they're awfully big.
No, if you look at the street, just like 15 inches.
But they stick out 3 feet when you're looking at it from the side, though.
Huh? But on the top, not on the on the top only. The top we bring the background of the sign panel forward from our glass.
Okay.
That's the intent.
Okay. Any other questions we have? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We'll discuss it. Next card, I have David Neiman. Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm David Neiman from 1101 East 18th Street in Los Angeles. I'm glad you're familiar with the pre-existing or before the project we had intentions on. It was the city loved it, we loved it, the banks loved it. Unfortunately, the timing was bad and we couldn't get the financing to continue. Right now, we're under a lot of pressure and duress. We've worked very closely with Vilia for the past few months to submit a package so that when we leave this room, God willing, there won't be any other reoccurrences for us to come back, for us to go forward with, because we have a long work ahead of us as far as moving the well there. There's an existing tank. We have to get engineering, and so on and so on and so on. Vilia, we made sure that we introduced everything to you guys so that there wouldn't be any question marks later on, and I hope that Denny can provide more responses to any of your other concerns. we're trying to make it. We're trying to clean up the eyesore there. It's bad for us. It's bad for the city. It's bad for the tenants, especially the neighboring homes. I understand that the city is considering giving colors to the fins, but you guys are the professionals and the experts. If you ask me, it's not such a big project, and it's too many colors. We already have the colors for the fins, and we also have a green colors to differentiate the roof area. We didn't want to give it too many colors because we want it to be a family type of center. And once again, time is of the essence, and we implore you guys to please give us the green light, and we'll do anything we can to accommodate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that, you got a material board?
Yeah, there we go. The last card I have is Laura Kapczynski.
I think I remember.
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Kopczynski. I live at 345 North Cedar, directly behind this project. And you probably remember me from last time as well.
The daycare?
I run the Montessori school right behind this particular project. I want to first of all tell you that I support this project. I would welcome new neighbors. Obviously, you know it's been vacant for a while and it's an eyesore. Just a couple questions I have, and one of the reasons why I sat here this whole evening is, once again, my concern for the safety of the children that are there during construction and after. The noise issue, the dust, the trash, the parking of the vehicles during construction, and the timing. My children are outside every day from 11 to 1. Play outside, we eat outside, weather permitting. I just came to let you know what it is I'm doing there, Monday through Friday. I also have a question regarding the traffic. One of my conditions to having the school was to have a white loading offloading zone in the front. From what I hear tonight, this is going to be a one-way project in on the Lexington side, out on the Glendale side. How is that going to impact traffic at that intersection there? I have parents coming off the freeway, making a left-hand turn to come drop children off. Has it been thought about or looked into? And also, they don't know yet the tenants or the potential tenants there, but knowing that there is a school there, hopefully no alcohol or cigarettes being sold. And my last issue is the security along that back wall. They've assured us that there will be a 5.5-foot wall. I am pretty much protected as long as that building stays in place. A concern I raised was if they get in there starting construction and find that that wall has to come down. That's the security wall for my playground. That's the back wall on my playground. And also the lighting, which they will address. And I'd like just a secure trash area. I see and I read that there are cement walls, but is it going to be locked off? Are we going to have street people living back there? Just a concern that I would like to raise to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for waiting.
Yes, thank you for your patience.
I have no other cards, no other people in here, so let's...
While she was talking, she mentioned something. I noticed, you mentioned there was only one sign on the street, that one pole sign?
They're proposing one pole sign. They're proposing wall signs on the
What's
building.
over here on the, I'm looking at page 2, on Lexington Street, right by where it says tree, next to the existing 1,700 square foot building? Is that?
Where it says sign?
Yeah, well, here it is here, too. It looks like it's the same symbol as over here. Is that another, the second sign?
Let me look. And
that one says relay place signpost. That kind of looks like the same thing.
yeah, and it says sign there.
Yeah.
We can clarify.
Okay.
Okay. Who would like to come up to deal with that one? If you could state your name again and address.
Danny Law, the architect, 4480 Estrando, Encino.
Okay. Do we have two signs or one sign?
We we have two signs.
Two signs. Okay.
Are you
Two pole
proposing
signs.
to keep two signs?
Keep two signs.
Okay, so the description.
And that was
of
an
the
error
front
on
one-
our part.
Is that okay? Because you mentioned that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now let's close it.
Who
went last time?
It's my turn.
All right,
You know, and I really appreciate the applicant and the issues they had. I dug this out. This was one of the very first projects that I, on the Design Review Board, had a chance to participate in. And I know the neighbors were here. There was a lot of back and take. It's a beautiful project, giant. Boy, the economy doesn't help you, does it? And it is an eyesore with the existing, project being fenced off. But I can't support this because the last thing we need in Glendale are more strip malls. And it's totally against the design guidelines of building out to the front. Every possible way that you could do it for $1.98 or the cheapest possible way, you've tried to figure out how to do. I mean, your architect kind of went through that. The little 600 square foot additional building is only added in to get a little more square foot to get the average of the 8-foot property line. Every place we look, relocating the sign. Talking about the fins and the color, that's just the downspouts in this project. And at this point, we don't need another strip mall in Glendale. And I'm sorry that it's your project. I'd love to see you build this one, and I wish you could, but this one's not going to fly with me.
Thank you.
I'm in commercial architecture, and I know how bad it is. My office, I just released about 20, almost 30% of our workforce. And I feel for a developer needing to do something. Money, you've owned this property and having to pay on it, I'm sure. But I'm with Mr. Ellis. We don't need another strip mall in this city or in any city that has the front-loaded parking, the buildings to the back. I believe the architecture, with all due respect, I think is extremely dated. I don't see anything interesting about this in the sense of creating some pop, some pop, some interest. I don't pretend that in 15 minutes of hearing this, I can execute something better, but I see potential. And again, I'm not doing this because I think I can do it in 15 minutes, but I see potential to create interest. I look around this city and other cities and new developments, new retail centers of small size, and they do things that are quite interesting. Having this sea of parking in the front is not it. Having the architectural fin, like you said, is a downspout considering the whole building is small, considering the whole overall view of it. I think a center that's pretty successful is the one right across Glendale College. It's interesting. It's got nice lighting, nice parking. It used to be a gas station. It's not bad. It's certainly an improvement over this. I feel for you. I really do. But there are some functional issues concerning this. This is design review, but to have a car have to turn around the corner and come in here, I see a potential log jam in here. And then you add to that the school. Not design review, but the flow doesn't work because I know we've got 18-foot aisles. 24-foot aisles gives you two-way traffic. I can't design it, and I don't pretend to do it in 15 minutes, but I think of some interesting shapes, forms. Imagine front-loading this corner with something interesting, with maybe, this could be an interesting site, and then have your two-way traffic work here and here if you push these buildings back a little bit. Who's to say that this can't, a row of buildings aren't back here and these get pushed? There's some things that you can do with parking to not have it just be the sea of parking across the thing and add shapes that infill certain areas to try to start rejuvenating an area with better retail centers. I suggest that you drive around Encino where your office is at. They're doing some good retail centers there. Glendale's got a few, La Cañada, all these cities are looking at these retail centers and getting away from the strip center, small little strip center model. It's dated, it's done, and this corner, which is its fun corner, you got the Whole Foods, you got the Blockbuster, you got Allen's building, the vitamin shop. And I think when we saw this, we go, goodness gracious, that's going to be a great addition to that corner. It's a different project than today's, but a center like this, it's with all due respect, it needs more work, from the architectural blocking of the buildings to the way that it's viewed, how it flows in, how it functions. It's just, we're not in strip center days anymore. And in closing, I know that things are not the same anymore. I apologize.
I concur with my two colleagues. I mean, when I was looking at it, studying it, I was just so underwhelmed with this project. Just those massive fins that almost block every signage as you turn the corner, it didn't make any sense to me. It is very dated, it's very 80s, it's very Valley strip mall, it's very Arcadia strip mall. Just the use of materials, and that's such a nice prominent corner, and to set everything back with just cars, and I understand the economy plays the biggest role in this, but there will be better days, and then we're going to look at this and say, what the heck happened here? How did they allow that? And that's not going to happen with us reviewing it. And so I'm sorry, we cannot, maybe afterwards we can discuss it, but it almost makes more sense to keep the existing buildings and separate them and, almost make something out of it instead of trying to just put this sort of beige stucco all around there with a big fin sticking out. And yeah, I'm just so underwhelmed with this thing. Do we have any?
Do you have any thoughts or directions that we could?
Because, the detail that went into that project, just because it's a smaller project doesn't mean that you could throw everything out and, but the care that went into that should be looked into. I'm not saying put the same thing on here, but, it's the same thought that went into that needs to go into this project with.
Our sense from the board is that the one of the most basic concerns is the overall site planning. So what we would infer from, we understood that there are more concerns than that, but just to take the site planning, we would infer from that comment that you would encourage the applicant to consider removing one or more of the existing buildings rather than the current plan, which is to essentially retain all three buildings and build a connecting piece. And so, again, just so that the board understands how a staff approaches working with an applicant, when an applicant comes to staff with an assumption of a scope of work, staff will work with them taking that assumption into account, rather than what the board, of course, is free to do, and we encourage you to do, questioning those assumptions. So since this, I think, came up either with this board or maybe a different board in a recent meeting, wanted to clarify that if there's a big disconnect between staff and the board, that may come into play, because staff tries very hard to work within the scope as identified by the applicant. What we're hearing from the board is to consider, as minimal as the scope needs to be due to the economy, to reconsider the reuse of one or more of those buildings for a more lively and interesting site plan that would. One idea is to at least have an element at the corner.
Address the corner.
Address the corner. That would require reworking of the parking. It may, in fact, require elimination of all the existing buildings and start again in a one-story way. So we heard the additional comments, and I think Roger has written them down maybe a little more faithfully than I have if he wants to step in at this point.
Let me go over what I've tried to write down. Basically, Insua particularly suggested that there was potential for this site and having a more interesting site. The overall, the proposed site plan just doesn't work. Doesn't like, there was a concern about how the traffic worked, the one way in and one way out. There was the potential to create interesting shapes and forms that infill the now basically street-adjacent parking. Encouraging the applicant to remove some of the existing buildings so that there was more flexibility in designing something for the corner, as well as providing a two-way in and out parking area.
And then we also heard to make certain the new design is a 21st century design with a great deal of design interest. There's an opportunity to have design interest on this prominent corner, especially with the variety and some of the quality in the adjacent buildings or surrounding contexts. So we'll go ahead and include that as well.
I think also considering the guidelines, the community guidelines of not having it be a strip mall.
So to address the streets, promote pedestrian-friendly commercial development, and focus on the urban design requirements rather than only maintaining the buildings and creating parking at this surface parking at this prominent corner, with the main concern that we heard, and the number one will be addressing the corner.
Right.
I want to give the applicant a chance to come up. Okay. He's been waiting here a long time. So I'll open it up again, and your name and address, please, again.
Thank you. David Neiman, 1101 East 18th Street. May I come back to behind you guys and show you off the board?
We have a pointer to them.
This is either it's going to get built or it's going to stay like this forever. With all due respect, you asked me about the traffic. We spent tons of money on the previous project, 10 times bigger than this. You guys gave us the green light. I had tons of cars coming, three elevations underground, subterranean. You guys permitted us to get it. Now,
Wasn't the driveway moved farther back to the project?
Absolutely not. There is no area here. We followed the same requirements as last time. We had 10 times the size of scope. You guys permitted it. I respect the fact that you think it's outdated. Please give us a design. Please help us.
Our job is not to design it for you. Look around the town, you look around the community, and look at architecture that works. The vitamin store across the way is a contemporary architecture. The Whole Foods has taken a more traditional wood approach. The strip centers like this is not the way that architecture is.
Well, if you don't like the fence and you want architecture,
no. It's because look at the design. It's.
But the problem is this: we have another sets of problems. First thing, and for the property coming in this direction is not a straight rectangle. Coming down this way, we can't put a piece of structure here because when you come this way, this will all be blinded. Coming from the north portion, we thought this through. If we put a piece here, you can't see anything else back here. Either I build it this way, or I go to foreclosure, 10 guys go to foreclosure.
Sir, your economic issues are not my economic issues.
Forgive me.
You don't understand that?
Anybody who comes here has the same dilemma. Now, this is a brand new structure here. It's 2,800 square feet.
Right.
We want to preserve it.
Okay, listen. It isn't. This is a strip center. This is not going to be approved. We're not going to design it for you. We cannot. When you look at the old design, this is not the same entrance as you just said. It was back here. It's a whole different building. Okay, this entrance right here is not what you just said, right? Listen, I apologize. Let's get it. Strip centers is what this looks like. It's not a strip center city. I don't have anything else to say.
Can't we update a design to give it to the pattern?
That's your job. Update something that isn't a strip center design. This is what this is.
If this were rectangular, we could do that. We can't do that.
Believe me, there's plenty that can be done here. Believe me. But it's not our job to do it for you.
It isn't, and we want you to be successful.
But this
is a strip center. That's not what we do. So start.
If I buy a commercial piece of property, who's there to say that I can't build a strip center? It's my property. It's commercial.
Okay, you're misunderstanding.
It doesn't meet your color combination.
No. It's not.
It's a commercial property.
It's
I'm not building a home on it.
No. Okay.
Okay. It's turned for
This will stay
a
there nice
conversation
for
that-
forever. Please give us a suggestion, please.
I suggest you go around the city and find a piece of architecture that you like and find that architect.
On the corner.
Okay, you're on a corner too, but I'm telling you, there's a way to do it. I'm not an architect. I can't do it for you.
We've thought every possible procedure. We've thought everything through.
That's not possible because we could think of 3, 5 just thinking
But if
through
you drive
this
by,
thing, so-
I told you, if you build something on that corner, you can't see the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. We'll disagree on that. Okay. We'll have a
What
motion.
am I supposed to do as a property owner?
Well, you need to let them make a decision.
But they said no to us.
They haven't said anything official yet. They
close the
allowed you
session
to come
again.
back up.
Let's close the session again. Okay, go ahead and come up.
Do you want me to give
Let's
them
take it
a
all the way.
particular amount of time?
Yeah, let's give them the. What is
2
it, usually
minutes?
2
3
minutes?
minutes?
Yeah. Go ahead, state your name and address.
1 minute.
Okay.
Danny Lord, architect, and 448A Estrando, Encino. I just want to say, we are comply with the urban design guideline. We are, because we are less than 10,000 square foot. We're exempt from that.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to point out
We'll make
that.
a note of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll close the session.
I move
We
to
have a
return for
motion.
redesign with the conditions as discussed.
I second it. And I second it, and there's plenty of examples in many, many cities that have an architectural language that is not of a strip center. Specifically areas of the front-loaded parking areas, the low landscaping, the parking being one way in which there is a large proportion, 50% of your site in the front is all parking.
It's existing there.
That's not the point if it's existing. My point is be creative. Just because it's existing. Okay, these are the points that make it strip centers. Here is a point that make it strip centers. Strip centers have rear-loaded buildings. Strip centers have front-loaded parking, which 50% of it, of the site, is parking. That's what the cities are going away from. Planning departments, new designs don't have that. They have a front island of interest where there is something drawing to it. There is parking that is worked within the building themselves. You've got 3 big parcels here. There's no reason why parking can't come in here. It has here, another building here. There's ways to do it. Get some creative retail magazines, and you'll see where it's going. Now, this is coming from an architect that spent 5 years with MCG, a commercial retail architecture firm. It's not some guy that's been doing houses all his life. So when I'm saying these things, it's because I saw it for years, how they successfully get evolved. I want you to be successful, but you don't live in a vacuum saying, I own the community, I own the property, it's my commercial property, I'll do with it I want. That's not what we do in communities.
I'm sorry, we can't have cross-communication.
Anyway,
Let's finish this up.
I apologize.
Actually, I'm sorry, I need to interject. Remember, there are 2 related.
Oh, do we want to do them together?
If you want to consider
Well,
the signage,
no,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, we need to be clear what your motion is.
My motion is on PDR 2009-028-A.
Okay.
Return for redesign.
Okay, and there was a second by Mr. Insua. This will be a roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Do we need a motion on the second one?
Yes.
All right, I'll move to send for redesign PDR 2009-041-A.
Second.
Okay, a motion was made to return the sign program back for redesign. Now, with this one, there were several conditions on the sign program. Yeah, it
There's
doesn't
no
really
building to
matter.
put it on right
We'll
now,
just, okay, just return it for redesign. Okay. And did I go over the roll call? I'm sorry.
For the
Mr. Ellis?
signage, I don't.
I moved it. He seconded it.
Mr. Insua?
Seconded.
Okay. Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of May 28th minutes.
I'll move approval of minutes of May 28th. Second.
Okay, and so second. Roll call, Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
And Mr. Yu?
Yes.
3-0. Okay.
Staff comments or?
We don't have any other board business to discuss except for see you in a couple weeks.
And will you be sending out a packet that has any talking points for the study session?
For the study session, there will be an agenda, and it will match the one that we're sending out for June 18th. So if you want a preview, you can look.
I guess, is there anything more
online.
than an agenda?
No.
And no talking points, anything like that?
Save a tree, we're not going to print anything.
Thank you.
No, and our expectation and our hope is that in the early part of next week there will be a postcard that goes to the homeowners associations.
We'll be working on that on Monday.
Because it will. It's very important to us that our active community members, our homeowners associations, as well as anyone who's ever interested in DRB, tune in for those study sessions because we're actually looking forward to getting feedback from the boards. Thank you.
And we hope the public want to come and attend, right?
Absolutely. Come and attend and public comment. The way we're planning for it is that, and hoping that public comment would occur either before and or after the discussion, but that during the discussion, during the bullet point items that you'll see on your agenda, there will be a back and forth between staff and the board. That's how we're thinking of it.
Works for me.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
We adjourn?
Second.
What time is it?
9:50.